Okay, everyone, it looks to be 7 o'clock straight up. It's a school night. I see lots of kids out here, so we're going to try to keep this thing moving along. Everybody got a chance to talk, but just kind of start on time here. So call to order, and we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance, and it will be led by Councilman Mike Griffith.
Oh, there he is.
Thank you. Face flag, hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Councilman Griffith. Okay, do we have welcome to everyone who's taken time out of their busy days to come tonight. We've got some important stuff to talk about, so welcome. I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to go right into staff presentations and information, but kind of how we're going to do this so that everybody gets an idea. Hopefully there were enough agendas. If there weren't, we can share. But we're going to start. First thing we're going to talk about is just the Measure Y and Z construction updates, just kind of where we are in all the projects. Then we're going to go into discussion action items. What we'll do, just to get an idea of where we're going to go with this process, is we'll have staff do their presentation on the aquatic facility first, on the siting of it. So that'll be the first item we do. They will give the full presentation, then they will give the recommendation. Then at that time, I'm going to pull it back up here to see if we have any questions of staff, and do that. And then I will open it up to the audience to speak on what's been talked about. There's cards in the back. They're a pretty wild color of pink there, so we'd probably be able to find them. And then please stack them on the back, because we're guests here. We don't have the key to the box over there, so that way we can take them home with us. And so fill that out so we can record who spoke. And everybody gets about 3 minutes to speak, and we'll get through it in a pretty orderly way and get everybody out of here in time to do their homework. So staff presentation, Measures Y and Z, third quarterly construction update. Dr. Mannon.
Thank you, Dr. Mannon. Good evening, President Lee, esteemed board members, all the doctors in the House, District Cabinet, all the viewing members at home, and our audience behind me. As always, it's a pleasure and honor to stand before you as a representative and spokesperson for the design and construction team seated behind me, and I'll introduce them as I bring them up to speak to the progress of Measures Y and Z. Leading off, we have Jesse Miller from HMC.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent, Dr. George Mannon. So the first two projects for Measures Y and Z to talk about tonight are Towers Elementary School and Riviera Elementary School. We are in the 97th percentile of finishing those projects. So we are punch listing them, finishing up all the little minor items that were outstanding by the contractors, with anticipation for notice of completion for both of those schools within the coming month. So we are well ahead of the original schedule for both of those schools for completion. Sorry. Thank you, Tom. Riviera has a rededication ceremony on April 23rd at 5:30 and Towers on May 29th at 5:30. Yukon, Edison, and Jefferson are the next three for Measures Y and Z by HMC Architects. We are DSA approved on Yukon and Edison. We have all the comments back from the state for Jefferson, and we are looking to go back into them very quickly here. All three projects are currently in the bidding phase. So we are scheduled to start construction on all three of those projects as soon as the school lets out in June. We will have a very fast construction schedule for Yukon and Edison, and we will present the bids to you guys, the school board, in the upcoming May board presentations. I think, oh, another one for me, sorry. So next, West High School and Richardson Middle School. These are the two that we are currently under the beginning phases of. We've been working with West High School staff since early January. We've had about 6 to 7 site committee meetings with West High School staff. Site investigations on that campus are ongoing. All of the necessary information that's needed to collect to produce the drawings and produce the scope of work by Belfer Beatty and their folks is in progress. Richardson Middle School, we just had our first site committee meeting in the middle of March, so that one's just kicking off. Both of these are scheduled to be into the state by October. So we did move those up, and we are trying to proceed full board ahead with those two items. We will have community meetings with the neighbors and surrounding community at a later date as we get further along in the process. And of course, as always, we'll present the plans and the final decisions to you guys prior to going to the state, probably in the October-ish board meeting area. Tentative construction schedules for West and Richardson would be starting next summer. So West would be about a 2-year construction process, similar to the other high schools that we've had. With Richardson, about a year-long construction schedule. Is there any questions on the Y and Z projects, Yukon, Edison, Jefferson, West, Richardson, Towers, and Riviera?
How'd you remember them all?
They're always on my mind.
Well, thank you very much, Jesse.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. And next up on the agenda is Mr. Paul Westberg, representing Westberg and White.
Good evening to the board and the community. North High School, tomorrow, 5:30 in the afternoon, rededication. Anybody that wants to come, enjoy the new high school, a whole new look from what it was when we first started. Major investment by the district.
Question about that.
Yes.
Where on campus will that happen? Do we know at this stage of the game, anybody? Okay, I don't have that on my calendar, so. Okay, thanks.
Good question.
Yes, that is a good question. I don't know where to go.
Gymnasium, if I remember correctly.
Is it?
I think
Okay.
so, from the card we got in the mail.
In the center quad there?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Torrance High School, the oldest school in the district. We are DSA approved. We are now officially bid. And we are going to construction the day after everybody leaves campus for the summer. And a long, arduous 2+ years of construction. And so we're really kind of looking forward to that. Any questions on Torrance High School? No.
Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Our 3 schools, along with Jesse's 3 schools for this summer, Belfer Beatty, the construction manager for the district, all during this period of time has got their work cut out for them. We have 6 schools that are all going to be under construction this summer in a period of less than 3 months. So lots of work by the contractors, lots of work by the architects to respond to everything and all things. Any questions on those 3 schools? I think
Okay.
that covers it for me. Thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
I'll be back in about 2 seconds.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions from the board?
I guess not.
Still no new teacher?
Okay, so we're going to go to discussion action items, and the first item up will be the siting for I'm going to do a couple of things before here, but the siting for the aquatic facility. We're really not going to talk about the design of the facility. That will be another meeting where we talk about the design and how it's going to look and things we're going to do with it to the fine details. Really, this meeting is so we can start the process, and we can't start that process until we have a site. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda topics are permitted 3 minutes per topic. Total time granted the public input shall be limited to 30 minutes per topic, but I suspect we may extend that. The board policies require that public presentations to the board comply with certain procedures, including items 2 to 3 listed in oral communications, which is be nice and we'll be nice and we'll get through this. So on that note, I will take it to Dr. Mannon, who will push it forward.
Mr.
Oh,
Lee,
wait a minute, we need to have a motion to
get it
place
on the
the
floor.
item on the agenda, so
so moved.
Second.
all
Thank
those in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Okay.
At this time, calling on Paul Westberg of Westberg and White, who is already at the podium, and he will go through the sites that are available. Just a reminder, we started with the Joint City District Committee in December, discussing various sites and whether or not the city wanted to be involved in the project. The city determined they did not want to be involved in the project, so that falls then back to the district. The sites which Paul will present and have been made public are the ones which TUSD actually owns the property. Therefore, we would not be purchasing any property with this. And Paul has some announcements, and then he'll follow through with the different sites.
Good evening again. I am back. A couple housekeeping items. First of all, in the audience here as part of my team is Doug Perrell, who is part of Aquatic Design and a firm that we're using in other school districts for doing aquatic centers also. He is also a present, sympathy needs to be had, present board member at Glendora, and has done thousands of pool facilities throughout not only this country, but outside of this country. Also, John Gomer, who is the architect and the lead for me in this particular district and is working on this project. The picture you have in front of you is actually supplied by one of our design committee members' son, and nothing absolute about it yet, but putting together the fact that we're going to have all 4 high schools at this aquatic center, and every one of them is going to have the same stuff, and they're going to be identified uniquely to each of the high schools. We have had 3 meetings so far. We have a quite excellent committee group. Been really kind of fun to go through all of this. We're kind of breaking new ground a little bit, and we're inventorying lots of things that a lot of the people that are involved with swimming in this community would like to see have happen, including one of your high school principals, Dr. Ron Richardson, who also is a swimmer. So we're getting lots and lots of input. Some of the base programs that we're dealing with here help dictate some of my comments pertinent to each one of the sites. One is that we are hopeful to have parking sufficient to deal with major meets in the future. And we're looking at seating over 500 people within the aquatic center. That means that we're looking to have parking capability of more than 400 cars at the particular site. And that means 400 or more cars not parked on the street, but in the facility itself. So those are some of the base parameters. The footprint for the overall development, i.e. everything inside the walls and the gates, buildings and pools, and we're talking about a big competition pool and a warm-up cool-down pool. Some of our base parameters are that we're going to have shower locker rooms for each one of the high schools, both male and female. And so that whole footprint is 66,000 square feet, which is part of the parameters of what helps me be able to look at a site and determine if the impact of what our program is overburdens the site, or whether the site can adapt to it and function appropriately. One of the other criteria that was given to me was that we needed to find a site that's most centralized to the overall district and not out into a peripheral area. So, having said that,
Question. So 66,000 square feet looks like what?
like a big rectangle.
So, but like a stadium, a football stadium size?
I think you could probably
Building?
say that, yeah.
But I
think
mean, it'd be the
that's a fair-
size of the football field, not the
Yeah,
stadium.
not including all the bleachers and
Yeah.
everything.
But the field itself.
That's about, order of
So
magnitude.
to give us an idea of the size piece that
so
we're
everybody
looking.
can kind of envision it. Good input.
Thank you.
Good input. Okay, first site, existing Griffith site. And I'm going to kind of read this, kind of like in school when you're taking tests. I'll read aloud while you read quietly. We start out with pros. It has adjacency to public uses, good access in a couple different directions, and minimal impact to adjacent residential uses. Now, that was something that we are taking into consideration on every one of these sites. How much impact? If we're talking about 500 cars and 500 or plus people, there is a physical impact to getting to that site and leaving that particular site. And thus, that is some of the concerns that we have. Okay, the cons. Well, first of all, it's a very small site. So the shape of the site is not very efficient. It's adjacent to city parking, of which we might be able to, or need to be able to ask the city to be able to give us the ability to park on their site. We don't know whether that's available yet or not. So that's a problem that we have. Potential conflict with the park parking use. I've been there at that particular site when they've had their farmers market. All right, there isn't a whole lot of places to park there, and it's a very popular, very active facility. Also, we're right next to a rail spur, and CDE, California Department of Education, sometimes has problems with the fact of having a railroad spur, railroad lines going by a public facility. All right, and if we're going to remove the existing function of the Griffith site, we're going to have to put all of that function somewhere else. And that's a price tag that's over and above what the budget has in it at the moment. So that's site particular one. Okay. Everybody be able to see the site? Great. Okay. Site number 2 is the existing Hamilton site. Pros. Obviously, it has direct access, a fairly major arterial that runs along the front of it. We're not envisioning really interrupting any of the existing buildings, which was an existing, I think, an elementary school site one time. And we're going to be able to, we have a lot of parking available, a lot of asphalt. All right. What are all the cons? And you keep seeing the cons are always bigger than the pros. The cons are that it's going to require all 100% of that existing parking. So if in fact the existing site function and a swim facility are going on at the same time, there's a tremendous impact that might cause cars to be parked on the street. Proximity of the aquatic facility adjacent to single-family use. We got housing right next to us. So I consider that sometimes a problem, having the residential use there. We're right next to the 405 freeway. If this was a site that Department of Ed was reviewing, if we were looking for a new elementary school site or any kind of educational function, they would probably frown present day on having more educational function adjacent to a freeway. Requires removal of 4 existing structures, albeit these are portable structures, but still we would be throwing away some asset that the district has. It requires, and I see a lot of baseball people here, all right, so it requires the elimination of 3 existing baseball, softball fields, no room to relocate. Okay? Limited visibility from the street. In other words, if you don't know where you're looking, if you're a visitor, how do you find it? is it's going to be back behind the buildings. And it's also, as I said earlier, one of the programs was, centrally located to the district, and it's not terribly centrally located to the district. Okay, that's site number 2. If we go to the existing levee site, buried in the residential area, all right. So the pros, well, we have 2 of them. Direct access from adjacent street, albeit a small residential street. Partial use of existing paved areas. In other words, we can use some of that parking lot, but we're going to have to put some more in. Lots of cons. Both street access via single-family and multifamily residential neighborhoods. Increased traffic volume. We have, in the state of California, Environmental Quality Act. We're going to have to do CEQA. We're going to have to do all kinds of traffic studies. We're going to have to verify that we're not impacting the neighbors. And so that might be a high hurdle to achieve. Removal of 6 existing structures. Got lots of portables out there. Use of at least 50% of the existing parking. Removal of a baseball field and compromise size of other fields, and remove 3 or 4 other grass playing fields, soccer and other sports. Occupies almost 50% of the existing facility, and we also need to relocate the YMCA child care facility. The last site. As I've been kind of told over the history of this, this used to be an old Navy site. Oh, sorry. So we will call this the existing Sherry site, and it has the pros. Let's go to the cons first. Elimination of another baseball field, albeit that I think it's a softball field for Torrance High School. And modification and relocation of district shelters, grounds department. Up at the top right hand, above Torrance Elementary, is where the district has its central facility for all the grounds and mowing and all of that. They have adapted to the space that they were allocated, but though we went in and took a lot of pictures of it, they're probably using about 50% of that, so I think the possibility is that we can probably encroach in that a little bit and kind of clean that up. As we drive in there, nobody in the community really sees what's back there, but it probably needs a little bit of attention. So the pros, we got a great big parking lot, and we're on a major arterial. Good access, good point of entry. Secondary access also along Torrance Elementary. So we could access this site from both sides, parking capability as such. Good service access via the district maintenance yard. Available land area with relocation of 1 baseball field required. Current similar use of football field and parking sharing parking use. We do have Sherry School on this particular site. The entire road that enters into the site from the major arterial going to Sherry is our property. To the top, as we all know, that is SoCal Rock, which at one time was old Navy buildings too, and then they've kind of cleaned those up and added some more buildings to them. The footprint that we're showing right now is merely just a suggestion. We do want to save, my suggestion, save those 3 big beautiful trees, because one of the things that we're talking about in the program for the aquatic center is maybe some outdoor barbecue areas where people can kind of congregate a little bit, and the trees are just really gorgeous out there. We have almost 500 parking stalls in this particular location. Needless to say, I'll cut to the chase. Of all the sites that I've looked at, and there are other ones that we've already abrogated away, this by far includes everything that we need that any of the other sites don't meet the level of need. And so I am highly recommending that this be the site that we place as a professional architect. Yes, Mr. Wormers?
You've drawn an interesting series of boxes on this site. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on those just a little bit? I mean, obviously, the triangular shaped thing off the left is the parking of SoCal Rock, which is ours.
Right.
What is the diagram around the ball diamond? What is?
The right-hand rectangle is roughly the footprint of the 66,000 square feet.
I deduced that by looking at the football field just to the right. It's about the same size.
That is correct. That is correct. And then the middle kind of semi-box is just open space.
Okay, and then the ball diamond?
The ball diamond, we're kind of re-looking at whether that's a good position for it or whether we rotate it a little bit, but we're looking in our budget of having some improvement to the ball diamond as part of this project.
So we may keep that diamond, is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we
yeah,
would
make
keep
it
that.
better.
That would be Torrance High's baseball field. We will need to, once we do construction over there, we will need to upgrade that field, because obviously with the equipment that's going to be over there, that field's going to get chewed up. And Torrance High is aware that that is part of our plan. Mr. Lee, our professional staff at the district concurs with Mr. Westberg, and it is our recommendation to select the Sherry site. As you can see, the other sites all have some difficulties with them. We believe this is the least disruptive and the best site for the aquatic center. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mannon. I have one question in looking at the Sherry site. That baseball diamond, the baseball diamond to the north, the bigger one, was what I called the JV field when I went to Torrance High. Unfortunately, I was never good enough to play at Torrance L, so that's where I had to play. But below it, I think, is a softball field, or
It's a
The one with
practice,
the backstop backing up to Sherry.
right.
it's a
Yes.
practice field.
And the girls softball at Torrance High School plays where?
Wilson Park.
At Wilson Park.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is a practice field for baseball.
Okay, so there will be no
Correct.
baseball programs dislodged in this location.
Torrance High School believes with an upgrade for the one field that they can schedule that way.
Yeah, because this is in fact, Torrance High School is one of the few high schools that has two baseball.
Correct.
fields. The JV field and then the field they have at Torrance Park. Okay. From the members of the boards, any comments, any initial,
I have a question.
Mrs. Deutsch?
I just wanted to clarify. Now, to enter this site, you mentioned there's two entrances, one Crenshaw, and then the other one is through Torrance Elementary?
Actually, it's not through Torrance Elementary.
Okay.
If you'll remember, Torrance Elementary ends in a circle.
Yes.
If we were attempting to access through there, that would have to be, I believe, a part of our REIR. So there's no direct access. Could you park there and potentially walk? You could, because that's an open area that we do not gate. But if we wanted in some way to try to provide some vehicle access, I'm sure we would need to have that as a part of the EIR. And as you recall, once the board makes this decision, then it's conditional, and we start the EIR process.
Okay. So, but buses can enter through Crenshaw? Okay.
That
Yes.
would be the primary.
Okay.
And the secondary, we're not asking to put any more parking stalls in that location. So the traffic count would really probably not be any different than it is right now, because there's only so much allocation of parking.
Okay. Thank you. That was my question.
Is that parking lot ever full? I've never, in my 20-plus years here in Torrance, I've never seen it full. Is
It
ever
has
full?
been close for some football games. If you'll
Oh, yeah.
recall, that's where you park for
Correct.
Torrance High football.
But I mean, for anything from SoCal Rock or anything?
No, in
from-
fact, SoCal Rock usually doesn't use that. It's sort of an overflow area for them.
This blocked off from SoCal Rock.
Okay.
And also the great fact is that we have lighting all the way down that street. And so we have all our underground distribution already existing. If we elect to put new light standards to make sure the parking lot is lit now to all code requirements, we're not trenching. We're just putting new fixtures.
Okay.
Mr. Steffen?
On that Crenshaw entrance, I don't believe there's a signal.
Not at the moment.
Would there have to be?
I think that would be something part of the EIR and our discussions with the city would take into account.
Okay.
Right now, I think it's enter, turn right, exit, turn right.
Okay,
Those-
Mrs. Reagan.
Yeah, actually, I had several questions. First, you mentioned that there might be a CDE issue with being near the railroad on the Griffith site.
Yes.
You said there might be. So we don't know until and
Well,
unless we proceed with that, or?
I've had other districts where we are in a growth mode, and thus when we go out and identify potential sites for purchase, I know that one of CDE's number one checklist items on their review is, I've had them near helicopter bases down in San Diego, but freeways and railroads, just in case something comes uncoupled.
Which is also the issue with the 405 near the
Absolutely.
Hamilton site.
Absolutely.
Because it's literally right on the
And
freeway.
these are more recent CDE requirements. The reasons why these sites are where they are presently, I don't believe that they probably had that criteria then, but they're a little more diligent these days.
Okay, one of the questions I had about the Sherry site is it makes me a little uncomfortable that the pool would be in such close proximity to the elementary school as being sort of an attractive hazard for the students. Are there ways that, I mean, I don't think we can make it so that the students can't possibly enter the complex because they find ways in.
Oh, I think we'll be pretty close. It's this complex will be fully enclosed.
Yeah, it's not a fence.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
so
can't
there
climb
will
a
be
fence
no,
to get
there
in.
will be no
I see them
openings.
climb over those fences all the time.
Yeah,
Dr.
well, this is a little more substantial than
Yeah.
fence, though. And also, I would remind you that once the design is developed, we're turning this over to our safety and security consultants, so there will be video surveillance there.
Okay. Okay, but that's just a concern of mine in thinking about putting it there. And then the other question that I had is, Sherry is essentially, well, we don't call them relocatables anymore, and I don't think they're modulars, but
I don't think there's anything wrong with using the word portable.
I think that's what they are, truly
Yes,
there.
yes.
And I actually was wondering about whether Sherry could be moved out in front and then the whole complex could be together in the back. And I don't know what that relocation cost might be or if that would
Certainly.
be a
I think-
feasible possibility.
I had been somewhat forewarned that that question would come to me. And so I did a little researching, and I've worked with Phil Fielding and discussing when did those portables, when were they placed? And I think, Phil, is that correct? You said the year 2000. They are moment frame portables rather than the old shear wall portables. The shear wall portables quite often would break in half after a few years. And so, in other words, they became non-functional and you had to go buy a new one. And to buy a new one is within install could be about $55,000. If we were to pick up that campus and move it somewhere else on this particular site, I think we're looking in the range of $1 to $2 million to do that kind of improvement. And that's not just including just moving portables around and relocating, but all the grading, all the underground utilities, plans and specifications, construction costs, all of those things, both hard and soft. So it can be done. We don't have the budget yet to allocate for that. Actually, we're in a very tight budget of the improvement we're defining right now. So, but anything can be done for money.
At a price,
At
right.
a price.
And my last question is, could you, for the purposes of the audience, say what an EIR is? We've mentioned that many times, and I'm not sure that's...
Environmental impact report. So it has everything to do with anything that we're constructing, that we have it reviewed through state agencies to make sure that there isn't any impact. Let's go to the issue of if we added more traffic count going by the 2 blocks of residential into the elementary site, that would require a traffic index study and it would really have output to the community. Right now, we're not suggesting that we're going to be doing that.
Okay.
You look at all the impact of the driving coming in from the major arterial, which we're not really dealing with too much residential. We do have, I think, homes along the other side of that particular fence on the long drive coming in. So if we did new lighting, we would have to shield that lighting so there isn't any lighting permeating into any of their backyards in the evenings. But it is an existing function right now that's already been approved. But we might still need to reach out to that community to let them know how we're going to do the parking and at what times are we going to have more activity than the vacant parking lot that you see by this photograph.
And potentially reach out to SoCal ROC if we have not already done so, and
We have
had the
been
conversation
making-
with them.
Yes, absolutely. We're not proposing any access through their property at the moment. It would be nice, because that would take away the cost of another signalization, because that is where the four-way signals are. So that would be an interface between your organization and them.
Just for your information, SoCal ROC pays for that signal at that corner.
Good for them.
So I just happen to know that. I just want to jump in and say that actually I live on the north end, and I know a lot of the softball people that are here for the Hamilton site. And I don't think it's worth losing the community resources that would be lost with so many of the other sites. So I'm happy with this location. I didn't expect applause, but I'm happy with the Sherry site, and I think we will have to work a little bit with the design and the positioning and all of that, but
We are so much in the early preliminaries, but this was not a hard decision. There's
not
one
would you look
site
at
that's
it all,
just
yeah.
almost reaching out and shouting at us and saying, this is where we need to go.
okay.
For the sake of the audience, can we back up just a touch and so everyone understands how hard we did try to work with the city, and we actually ran through some city locations that simply were not feasible, and the city was not inclined to work to surrender the property. And I completely understand why they don't have enough open space as is. Can we touch on that just slightly so everyone understands that?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Wormers, I know through the process I know staff had a couple of meetings with the city personnel looking at different sites in the north end, the south end, even at the new transit facility site as a possibility. And we ran all those basically to ground to make sure, because during the campaign, we said we would look at every available option for this site, because it is a facility that all 4 high schools will use. And it's a pretty important facility. It's been a while in Torrance since somebody's built a $15 million building. And so, a public building. So, we basically drove all those to ground, found out those were not possible, then reverted back to what we had looked at for city sites, or school district sites. These were really the only 4 sites that had any possibility. And so, as part of the review that we should do in public to discuss these kinds of sites, we're doing that tonight. Now, I kind of, again, apologize a little bit, because we've got a bunch of kids out here that are concerned about their play diamonds and the softball fields and the baseball fields. And I personally agree with a number of emails that I got today that I do not want to eliminate baseball fields of any kind to put in the aquatic facility, especially when we have a much better option that's been delivered to us tonight. But we needed to do our due diligence to go through all of those possibilities, because you never know until you come to a public meeting how the public's going to react to something.
And this really didn't happen overnight.
We've been working on.
We've been spending months and months on this. We have tons of photographs at every one of the sites, even the sites that we have excluded because they just were not appropriate at all. So these were the most appropriate, and yet one just shouts out at you in comparison to everyone else.
Mr. Lee, Mr. Farrell's here from Petrel Engineering. If you would mind taking a few moments, Mr. Farrell builds basically, as an engineer, constructs over 1,000 swimming pools, I think, a year nationally. But I know you had a question or received a question about one facility for 4 high schools, and Mr. Farrell can talk about, I think, where the trend is now for school districts on that, if you would like him to do so.
Yes.
So everybody knows, I'm the president of the board. You stole our superintendent.
Oh, we didn't steal him. Thank you.
But that's okay. we appreciated having Dr. Mannon in our district for the years that we had him. So, a little bit about myself. I'm a swimmer. I come from a swimming family. I have 4 kids that were NCAA Division I swimmers. I've been to more swim meets and cooked more pancakes than I care to remember. And so I know not only the engineering side of swimming, but also the swimming side of swimming and the U.S. swimming side. And I've certified pools that have had over 15 world records in them. And we know swimming quite well. Where this type of facility, this is the one of a kind around here. So this will be pioneering type facility. Where this facility is common is in Texas. Texas is very common where an ISD now, not a USD, but an ISD it's called, Independent School District, has one major central facility for their football programs, for their baseball programs, for their swimming programs. One in particular that we designed was Conroe, which is near Woodlands, near the Houston area. It is a stretch 50 meter. It has 5 high schools using it. It's a little bigger than the pool we're talking here because it has double bulkheads. So you're allowed to be having simultaneous workouts going at the same time. And they find that this facility then is economic, it's exciting, it brings the kids out, and I think Torrance is just like Glendora. Glendora was a swimming city waiting to happen, and if you build it, they will come. And in Glendora, we now have girls swimming that's had first and second place CIF finishes. We had the National Women's High School Swimmer of the Year 2 years ago at Glendora High School. And this is coming from a program that was nothing to 400 kids in a pool a day during the summer. So it's really the demographics, I think, will... One thing about swimming, you never ride the pine. You're always in. No matter how good you are, you can always swim. And you'll even be in a race. You may not win, but if your time's better, you do it. So it's a sport that brings everybody. And then, of course, water polo comes with it. So this idea will allow these high schools to be together. We've also looked to have some gang outdoor showers, which is a very social part of swimming for those who are swimmers, like to get in the showers and chat and talk and talk about the meet, and even competitors that know each other from a club level. There's so much good things that can happen. It's a men's and women's program. It's also a men's and women's coeducational program. Teaches young men and young women how to get along with each other and to talk to each other, and it's a great program for social training of young people as well. So we think this is a pioneering type facility in Southern California. So this is exciting.
Now, 30 plus years ago in Colorado, they built swimming pools for each high school in Pueblo. That's no longer done, is what you're saying. It's now collected into one. It's a standard practice?
Not around here, it's not. It is in Texas because they can't come up with the land. They're building high schools so fast, they can't come up with the land. So Texas came up with this type of facility. And when George came to me and said, this is what I'd like to do, I'd say, well, we showed him pictures of several facilities where this has been done. In some facilities, coaches will have to adapt. You'll be working simultaneous workouts, but the beauty of it is that everything is centered. Your facilities are centered in one area, and also your facility people who have to operate your facilities, your trained managers can all be in one location servicing the pool. So in terms of economics, it is by far the most economic way to do it, and that's where Texas has gone to, and they're now building these in all their ISDs.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So can I ask
yes.
a question too? So you keep talking about it being an economical solution. So the monies that we have in terms of the bond monies will be sufficient to create the facility that we're looking at? The type of facility?
Right now what we're looking at, we can.
Okay.
We can. And this is a facility that's called a stretch 50. That means a 50 meter with an extended area for a bulkhead to park itself. So what you will do then is have it divide. The bulkhead can move and divide the pool into various sizes to fit the event. It can move up and down. You see these in Olympic pools.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Major championship meets. You can have water polo with floating water polo goals. You can have championship heats going on during the day and the finals for the water polo by moving the bulkhead to one spot. And then the coaches and the referees can walk around the facility for the championship. You can have the bulkhead in the middle for heats during the day. And when the meet ends in the afternoon, you park the bulkhead for the championship races. Much like Belmont Plaza. Those of you that ever went to Belmont Plaza swimming pool, which is now drained.
Timing and electronics.
Yes, the timing and electronics. We're going to have multiple timing and electronics so that the multiple facilities will have timing systems for each individual event going on. This is not going to be, but that's all infrastructure. And what we don't duplicate is that infrastructure over and over and over again. That's where it's economical. Filtering, treating, heating, the most economical way to do it is the way this is being done.
Okay. I think a lot of the softball people have heard what they want to hear, but we have 21 cards with the potential of 3 minutes, people talking. So if we start to repeat ourselves maybe a little bit, you can just raise your hand and say, I agree, and probably not take all that time, but you're more than welcome to do it if you want to. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to call people up. I'm going to call up the first person, and kind of like what we do in baseball, we'll have somebody on deck. So I will call the next person up. There's some seats up here where they can sit down, and maybe they'll make it a little bit quicker than it would normally be. So the first person I'm going to call up is Scott Hayward, and then on deck is Alessa. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then on deck we have Alessa Lorza. I kind of read handwriting, but that's who's next. Okay, good. Thank you.
Applause just takes time. Let's hear what you have to say.
Mr. Lee, honorable members of the board, I'm the president of Torrance Girls Softball League. We're housed at Levy. I wrote a beautiful speech that I'm sure would bring all of you to tears if I gave it. But if the inference that I'm drawing from what you said is that Levy is an unlikely site and that the Sherry site is going to be, then I will simply come up there and give you all a big kiss and send all my girls home so they can go do their homework. And that, I think, would cut everything short. And so if we get these nonchalant kind of nods and indications that we're good, then we will, again, just thank you very much. And
one of your girls is my daughter. She needs to go do homework.
But wait, before you go, though, I do appreciate your attention to this issue and your obvious support of our students and the sports world.
The show of support is louder and more significant than any words that I could say tonight. So, again, we'll thank you for keeping us safe and giving these girls a place to continue to play, hopefully, for years to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Well, okay, then then let's do this. We're going to take like a 3-minute break, and whoever wants to go, kind of given where we've been, is okay, and those who want to stay and talk, perfectly okay.
I didn't know it. I'm not in it.
No. So it's on the screen.
As you look forward into improving this community, I would like for you to take into consideration that Torrance High does not have a softball program or does not have a softball facility on campus, and just like all these other Torrance High schools do. And so, and I would like to speak on behalf on this community that if you can't add softball facilities to Torrance High, then I urge you to not take away these softball fields that we have at Levy and at Hamilton. And and I want to say thank you for your time, and I appreciate that you guys won't take away these two facilities for all these hundreds of girls that look forward to playing the sport and having the opportunity to live their dreams and have a very successful future.
Well, good. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We have Kayla up next, and then after that, Mark Danzinger.
I also did prepare a speech, but it goes along with everything Alyssa and Scott Hayward just said. So.
Good. Thank you very much for coming. Mark Danzinger, and then after that, Bruce Sawyer.
Mark had to excuse himself.
Pardon me?
Mark had to excuse himself.
Okay. And then Bruce Sawyer, and then after that, Carol Fry.
Thank you, board members. I came to Torrance in 1964. I'm a graduate of North High. I met my wife there, so I'm part of the system. Mrs. Reagan's. I do have my chapstick. You can explain that joke to your board members later. I was the former president of North Torrance Girls Softball. My son played North Torrance Little League. And unfortunately, my volunteerism has never stopped, and I'm the district commissioner for Los Angeles for the Amateur Softball Association. I'm here representing my girls from both Torrance and North Torrance. Both of those facilities have over 50 years invested in them. The relocation of that, we know, isn't going to happen. So I just wanted to reiterate how important those programs have been. I appreciate the gentleman saying build the swim complex and it'll grow. Torrance is a big baseball and softball town. All of our programs have turned out tremendous athletes. The Wheeler brothers from Torrance are playing baseball, Major League Baseball, and North High's had the same. And from Little League and from the girls softball programs, they feed those high schools. This really is a baseball softball town. It's not that I want to take away from the swimming. I believe kids should play multiple sports and have as many opportunities as they can. I just didn't want to see an impact to our community for the existing organizations that are already there. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. Carol Fry, and after that, James Fry. So they can come up together if they wanted to, and we'll give them a couple extra minutes if that's what it takes.
Good evening. So far, everyone who has spoke, have children in the sports program. I'd like to speak on behalf of a resident in that area. I live 1 block north of the Sam Levy School. So from what was stated already, it seems like Sam Levy is the least likely. And I can see why, because we went through the heavier traffic and the situations when Hull was temporarily relocated to Sam Levy, and also the things that you'd have to consider for the neighborhood with pollution during the construction of the site, the traffic, the noise. We've lived through the construction at Torrance Memorial Hospital, so we've kind of endured a lot of problems over the years with things that are happening around us. And so I just,
we'll try not to do this to you again.
So, thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Elena Berman. I'm kind of maybe not getting that right, but something like that. Thank you.
My name's Jim Fry, James. My wife and I have lived at the same location now for 45 years, which is just north of Levy School by 1 block. Like she said, we've gone through the whole transition. Those of you that are familiar with the area know there's no major access to that site. They're all city streets, and they're all small city streets. And when Hull went in, they put the stop signs all over the place, which people tend to run day, night, whenever you want to talk about it. I also think it's a bad site because the Madrona Marsh area, it used to be a swamp down in that area before they started putting in the commercial buildings with the big foundations and everything, which will have to go on if you guys put an aquatic center down there. So we got some geologic stuff, and then again, the traffic impact for those of us that live in the area is one of our big problems. And I have one other question to ask that nobody's brought it up. It's, is this aquatic center for Torrance students only, or is it going to be open to the general public who pay $5 to get into the swimming?
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to be a plunge. It's not going to. The Benstead plunge will continue to be the recreational swimming.
So this is strictly for our schools.
It's for the schools and competitive swim meets.
Right.
So it's going to be. This is a competition pool. This isn't you want to go for a swim on a Saturday afternoon and you jump into this pool.
I mean, it's
that's
not
why
like,
we have the Benstead
not like the kids can
plunge
come
now.
off the beach and come in. And
No, that's not what this
do something
facility
like
is
that.
at all.
Okay, that's one of the things I was worried about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Elena Berman, no. Margaret, oh, no, she is here. I'm sorry. Come on up. My bad. We might have to get a microphone down to her.
We'll pick you up, don't worry. Good evening, board members. Hello, my name is Eliana. I am a resident of Torrance. I am here to tell you do not make Hamilton an aquatic center. Hamilton, to me, is a second home, and I love playing softball. My brother plays in Little League, and he said that, if I can't, it would be very sad if I can't play there anymore. So if you choose Hamilton, all the other girls won't know where to go. That means I probably won't see them anymore. So please don't turn Hamilton into the aquatic center. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Margaret Talmontes from North Torrance Girls Softball, Serena Street, Torrance. Oh, there she is. Okay. I probably ruined your name. I'm sorry.
Hi, good evening, board members. My name is Margaret Talamantes. I'm a parent of two children at the North Torrance Girls Softball League and the Boys Little League. And I'm just here tonight to urge you to please vote no on the Hamilton and Levy sites, particularly the impact that it has on the girls softball leagues, because I'm not sure if everyone knows, but there's only 2 girls softball leagues in the city. And if the Levy site or the Hamilton site is selected, it will have an adverse impact on girls in the city. So I just urge you tonight to please not select those sites. So thank you, and thank you for your service to the community.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Christopher, it looks like Honanie.
Just has to be, he said he would like one of our board members to fill up there.
Okay.
His spot.
Okay, good. Portia Weaver Patterson.
That's me.
If you want them in order, I'll take it. If you want them in order, I'll take it. Okay.
Can I just take that, please? Yeah, they pick up.
And you're Lauren.
Lorena.
Lorena, I'm sorry. There we go.
My name's
In order
Lorena
here.
Naras. I'm the president of North Torrance Girls Softball League. So I'd just like to ditto what Scott said, and please don't take away our fields. And if we can dismiss our girls to go home and do their homework and go to bed, as well as the boys from North Torrance Little League and the Hamilton site.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody's getting our drift. So those people that need to go home and do homework, I don't think the Hamilton site or the Levy site appear to be at risk at all at this moment.
Perfect. Thank you.
Portia Weaver Patterson.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, if Hamilton is not one of your sites that you are considering, then yeah,
We can
because
call a
my
vote
girls have
real
played
fast.
for the last 3 years and they love it there.
Okay, well, good. Well, thank you. I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity that wanted to speak. Paige Hayward. We're good. Okay. Savannah L. Katzinger. We're going through.
Raise their hand.
Elisa Yee. Okay. Michelle Proctor. Here she comes.
Good evening. I thought that I was going to feel taller over here. I also had a speech prepared. Both my kids were in North Torrance Girls Softball League and North Torrance Little League. I was also an umpire and a board member for both leagues. I've also had a travel organization of baseball where we did fundraisers at swim meets. So I understand the impact of everything, and I want everybody to have their opportunity. So originally, I actually had suggestions for other sites, and I thought that Torrance City Council was going to be here, and I was going to urge them to get involved and stop discounting our baseball and softball players, because they're just as important, if not more important, because no matter what we have or don't have, we still manage to play on. And since you're not going to impact either us or Levy, because they're our sister league, I thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Michelle Proctor? Okay, that's you. Okay. Lisa Wormers. And I think she went home because she's related to my fellow board member. Audrey Cho. Our way through here. Melissa Sawyer.
Elena actually stole my speech, but I just wanted to speak on behalf as a veteran of North Torrance Girls Softball League. I spent 15 years of my life growing up there. It was, in fact, my second home. I probably spent more time there than I did in my own bed. But it was where I made my family. It was where I made my friends, and I've known most of them still going on in my life, and I don't know where I would be without that field. So I would just like to reaffirm that thank you for what I believe you're going to keep is Hamilton. So I just wanted to show my appreciation. Thank you.
Well, good. So thank you very much. Charles Deemer.
I'm not from North Torrance area. I'm from West High area. I have more technical questions about the center itself. I mean, the Cherry does seem to be the most logical location with the facilities that the school district has, and it's unfortunate that the city was unwilling to concede a couple acres of land for this. But since they aren't...
It was perfectly okay. There's no animosity. There's no...
Oh, no,
it was just, we kind of went through a process, and
I
we wanted
was just thinking over
make
the
sure
years-
we found every site. So
Yeah,
I don't want anyone to think that there was anything other than we just kind of ferreted out every site we could,
I'm just
and some
thinking
of
about
them
a
were
couple of
theirs.
sites that the school district had that have gone to the city over the years. You know, and been nice anyways. This swim facility, you said was going to be having meets. I take it like different schools in the area be competing type meets, or the more like CIF type meets? So what-
CIF type events. I'm sure there'll be other events. I mean, like any other team sport, there may be activities where they have meets with the four schools. There may be meets that involve the Bay League or whatever league they're in at that moment, or even CIF type regional events. So it's a competition pool. So
Yeah,
it
so-
will attract those kinds of uses.
So one question I would have is, since this is going to be a CIF type larger area meets, what would be the approximate seating capacity of the people watching the meet? That's one question.
We haven't designed it yet. I said at the beginning of the meeting, this is more about siting. But in some of the preliminary designs, we're looking at approximately 500 seats in it. And it from the research that we've done, swim meets work kind of like track meets. The parents are in the stand
Yeah, okay, I know
when
what you're
their
talking
kids are in
about.
the pool, and then the rest of the time they may be outside. That's why some of the early plans have plazas in it, and maybe concession areas that faces the outside to be able to handle that, and then the parents can go in and watch their kids when their kids are swimming.
Okay. It's mentioned swimming back and forth and water polo. What about diving?
As an insurance guy, it just scares us. I don't even think there's a CIF diving program left, is there?
I don't know of any dive.
No, diving's gone completely club.
Yeah,
diving's club, so this will not be a diving facility at all.
Okay, so that takes care of that. I think how to say it. looking at the location that you have, and with Sherry High and Tellsdale on one side and Scrock on the other, with the parking that you say you have there, how, since all 4 high schools will be using this for training in addition to competitions, how many hours a week would you be using that? I mean, since the parking lot's going to be next to Scrock and all, I mean,
Scrock doesn't use that parking lot. That's a Torrance Unified School District piece of property. It's ours. We control it. So, I mean, right now, because it doesn't use much, people will park in it because it doesn't much matter.
So it's basically when you have football games or other things at the Tartar Stadium is when that parking lot is ever filled. So, and it isn't a shame that you can't get around the other side for the signal, but I'm sure that somebody gets clever enough to figure something about that.
I don't want to cut you off, but you've gotten to our 3 minutes.
What would be the construction time? Approximate. The construction time, approximate. Once you get all to the point, everything all cleared.
Designed and approved, about 1 year.
1 year. So we're looking probably 2 or 3 years before that.
So it's a couple of years before somebody's swimming in that pool, probably. Yeah. So it's probably a couple of years before you and I are diving into it.
No diving.
No, well, we can jump. We can jump. Yeah, that's right. We can jump.
Oh, well, let's see. Mr. Lee, doesn't that center seat seem much more comfortable than it was when you was up there before?
No comment. No diving. Don't dive.
Thank you, Mr. Deemer. Deborah Olson. Deborah Olson. Okay. Tim Liu. Okay. Here he comes.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that I have 2 daughters, and they both each of them played about 6 years at TGSL. So it sounds as if it's a foregone conclusion now, but I thank you for not affecting the Sam Levy site. If you ever want to find out the big impact that softball has in this community, I invite you to go out to Sam Levy on a Saturday afternoon and take in the softball games, or to go to the TNT tournament that Torrance High puts on every year and see all the softball games that are going on with teams from not only here in California, but even outside California, traveling to our city of Torrance to participate. Lastly, I just want to know what's going to be done with that. I know you're the Torrance Unified School District, but the Costco site, once they relocate,
that's those other guys that meet.
Yeah, so I'll come back next week.
Thank you
very much for your time.
I'm Carl Wather.
Good evening, members of the board. I'd like to address an issue that I had addressed recently with access to a facility like this out of a residential community. And we had an issue with the excessive amount of traffic to move into a really small space through residential streets. Now we have at this site, at the Sherry site, Crenshaw is the main entrance. And I can tell you that I've gone to many football games because a bunch of my grandkids went to school at Torrance, and a bunch of my kids went. And it's pretty hard to get into that place if you're going southbound. But I also would like to caution that not only are you going to have the weekly football game there, now you may have traffic many more days a week, and it have a different effect on the community than just what we experienced with the football games going on at Zambrini Stadium. So I'd caution you to look at that. I had that issue with the City of Torrance Planning Department, and I have to say that the process they had for traffic planning was atrocious and inappropriate. So take a look at it.
Those issues will be dealt with when we go through the environmental impact review process.
I understand, but I'd like to put it on the table.
And actually, the Torrance Unified School District, with a consultant, will be driving that process and driving the recommendations. And there could be a recommendation for some roadway improvements or different signaling or things along that point. And we may not even we may not even know all the options at this point. So that we'll have another public meeting on that. We'll be able to talk about that. And this process will be pretty transparent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Arthur Schreiber. Someday, Arthur, I'm going to get that right. It's just I can't get that quite out of my
It's like shopper, like
shop,
going shopping.
shopping.
That's usually what I tell people when they have a hard time with it. So, good evening, Torrance School Board and staff. I saw the 4 sites that all of you presented, and the other 3 certainly aren't appropriate compared to the Sherry site. I like some of the questions that Mr. Warmers had addressed specifically. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, I'm a Torrance High grad, but also a Torrance Elementary grad, and I see that it's cutting into some of the field there with Torrell. Is there any impact that's going to be? What's the impact going to be on that elementary school? Are they going to have to start shifting it more toward the east so there's more room, or?
It's actually just a little corner of the pavement on what I would call the western border of the school site, which is really a part of the school site that isn't hardly used. The main playground for Torrance L is to the east, and that's really where the bulk of the activities there go on. It may not be in exactly that location, but it'll be in that approximate location. I could see it going long and narrow through there maybe, or some other configuration. But again, this is more siting than it's going to be actual design. The design will come back to the board in a public meeting, and we'll be able to talk about that. And we'll probably have 2 or 3 design options at that point.
And the other thing is regarding the traffic issue, because it was pointed out that when individuals come to Torrance L, there's just a loop and then they leave out. Has there been any discussion about creating some kind of a pathway that connects to Crenshaw for the future? Because it seems to me that's something to start considering now, because there's going to be more traffic for the aquatic center as well as for the football field.
I'll speak for myself personally. I'd be a little worried about a connection in there, because that would then become a cut through and would impact the residents to the east quite a bit. And that, I think, would create more of a disruption. I think for the most part, it'll be a secondary entrance. I want it to look nice, because I think all of us want it to look nice from that side, because instead of just being a big concrete wall, there'd be a secondary access. I think the architect talked about that. And again, we'll get through that kind of through the design phase, as we go through that.
That's fine. I would say, again, concurring with what a lot of people have shared here tonight, that Sherry site is really good, especially regarding the parking element, that it's already in place and it's not disrupting a lot of people. So I certainly would hope that you go along with that, and it sounds like you're going to do so. And just one more thing, Terry, it is gray. I took another look. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Thank you. John Westergaard.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a father of 2 young boys at Towers Elementary, and I'm a civil engineer by trade, and I'm also a former high school swimmer, so this is all very exciting for me. In fact, my mother, who's 72 years old, still swims in masters swimming and competes, and so that brings me to my first question about the facility itself. Now, it sounds like you've pretty much eliminated the possibility of it being a recreational pool open to the public, and you said it's a competition pool. Is there any possibility of leasing it out to the local masters clubs and local youth clubs?
In fact, we hope so.
Okay.
I mean, that's a big part of the plan.
A lot of good use out of it for that. So, also, I wanted to say the Griffith site, everybody's spoken out very strongly against the other sites other than Sherry. The Griffith site, you can't have a swim meet that close to train tracks with trains barreling by. And I mean, my kids love to go to Wilson Park. They love it when the trains go by, but they're a good, 50 to 100 yards away, and the trains are still pretty loud there. You can't have a swim meet that close to train whistles and, people trying to hear the referee's whistles and saying, take your marks, go, and all that. It would be, I think that site should just be completely out of the question for that reason. Let's see. Also, the Hamilton location, I think that people have spoken out against it, but it's too far flung. I also want to reiterate the need, or not the need, but the strong desire that those of us from north and west would have for a traffic signal on Crenshaw to turn left onto that the access road to Sherry and to the facility, because people from north and west, we're going to be driving the farthest in the first place to get to this facility. So that it's kind of adds insult to injury for us to have to sit there in the median of Crenshaw for so long waiting to turn left. I don't think that somebody had mentioned parking would be a problem. I don't think that's going to be a problem, because unless we schedule a big swim meet at the same time as a Torrance High football game. I
don't think we're going to do that.
Let's see. I think that's about it. That's the only question I had. I just wanted to say it's a really exciting time to have young kids in Torrance with everything going on with the bond measures, not just the aquatics facility, but the gymnasiums and the performing arts facilities and all the improvements. So thank you all for all your hard work.
And Towers looks pretty good right now, doesn't it? It looks
Yeah,
better than when
yeah.
my kids went through there, yeah. Okay, good, thank you very much. Mary Morris. I think that gets us to the end.
Good evening. I'm part of North Torrance Girls Softball, and I understand that we've made a really great decision tonight, so I'm pleased about that. But I just wanted to echo the passion that was in the room and why you had the turnout that you did. And I think a lot of kids spoke. You didn't get to hear all of them because we've been talking and meeting and things like that. This really transcends sports for us, so that location is kind of our lifeblood, and I would say that's true of Levy as well. And I realize that you have to make decisions objectively, and you most certainly can't make promises, but I would tell you that you would get this kind of turnout and more each time something like this might come up from both of those facilities, and including the boys' side as well. So that's all I wanted to say.
We
Thank
hope
you.
not to bother you anymore.
Thank you.
Okay, I am out of cards, so we'll probably, Mrs. Taji seems to be coming down. We will get a card from her later.
Good evening, members of the board. I have a question about your statement also where you said that this was not going to be, it was going to be for the high school aquatics programs and for competitive swim meets. In the TNU questions and answers, it says provide an aquatic center for high school swimming and water polo programs and for the entire community as well.
Well, and that would be club teams, any kind of competition
Okay,
events.
I believe
USA
entire
Swim.
means the entire community, so that doesn't include me because I'm not a member of these organizations. I just want to point out, I think it was a little bit misleading if that's where you're leading. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, let's bring it back up here, and we probably need to make some motion to pick the site that you would like to see.
I so move that we, a motion to pick the appropriate site. Is that the right way of saying it?
No, I think you would call it the Sherry site.
Oh, you want to identify it in the motion. I make a motion to identify, okay, the Sherry site.
And, excuse me, Mr. Steffen, would you please include in your motion that this is contingent upon the completion of the environmental review process?
Just did. It's contingent upon the environmental review process.
So second? Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Aye.
Aye. Good.
Can
So,
I make one comment?
yeah, Mr. Steffen.
You know, tonight, I know I am, and I'm pretty sure every one of these other board members and the staff and community, we're making decisions that are going to last 50, 60, 70 years, way long after way past after I'm going to be gone. So, you know, and these, we're very conscious about making the right decision. I mean, I think where we put the gymnasiums or the auditoriums on a school site tonight, they will be there a long time. So we're really taking this very seriously, and hopefully we're going to make all the right ones. And because 50 years from now, you know, it'll still be there, and people have to live with these decisions. So, but thank you very much for your support.
Okay, good. Then on to the next item, number 3. So I'll need a motion to approve the placement of the gymnasium at Cashmere Middle School, Jefferson Middle School, contingent upon completion of the environmental review process.
Second.
All those in favor?
Oops.
That's right, we need the presentation. I'm jumping the gun here, so that's okay. He's going to abandon us.
You know, a couple of comments as Mr. Miller's getting ready. The reason that we need to move very quickly with this item and the next item is because, as you saw in the update, Jefferson and Cashmere are coming out of DSA. We want to be able to take the plans into DSA and make the gyms at those two school sites a part of the modernization process at those school sites. It reduces our costs, It works better for the schools. If you'll notice, Richardson started planning. So we'll want to be able at some point come back to you and say, this is where it goes for Richardson, so it can be submitted as a part of the Richardson package. And therefore, it's not a standalone project. So to do that, Jesse Miller, who is before you, has a very tight timeline with DSA. So we're asking approval, and you have some options on both Jefferson and Casimir. He will be back before the board at the May 4th board meeting with renderings and elevations and schematic program design, asking for your approval. You will have options in terms of those, in terms of how it will actually look, and in fact, it can the actual facility can look different at different school sites, depending on the things that Jesse's going to talk with you about. But tonight, we need the board to move forward for placement at these two sites so we can start again the environmental review process if in fact we need it, and then move on to the Department of State Architect.
So I don't think mine will have quite the fanfare as the last presentation, because we are obviously on existing sites, so we're not going to be taking anybody's sites away from them. We'd like to start first with Jefferson Middle School. As Dr. Mannon pointed out, Jefferson and Casimir are what we're presenting tonight. They are the first two out the gates to potentially receive the gymnasium project. We have two locations that we'd like to present to you, the board, tonight for your consideration. I will give my recommendation at the end of each one, and allow you guys to understand the advantages of each one at each school. So option A, as you can see on the screen for Jefferson Middle School, there's many advantages to this location on site. It's closer to the only parking lot on campus. It has all the access to the underground utilities. All the utilities run right past there, which is a cost savings to the district to not have to extend those to any other location on the site. It's less isolated from potentially the other location that we'll show you on campus, as it will be up there on that north side of campus where all the new science modulars as part of measures Y and Z are being modernization is being done. It takes advantage of some of that rarely used green space by the campus on the north side. That green space has been problematic for Jefferson Middle School as far as supervision, and what it's not really conducive for baseball, softball, or any of that nature. The size of it, so this helps to start eat that space up. And we believe it's less disruptive to the neighbors, as you'll see from option B. So option B is on the south side of the campus. Its advantages are that visitors could access this area without having to really enter the campus proper. We could provide a entrance and a gate system off of, well, it's basically Carson's access road. I think it is Carson, but it's like their access road off the main street there. It would obviously be more visible to the community. It'd be a more visible building for Jefferson Middle School right at the front of the campus there. And then, of course, gym noise would be further away from the classroom settings. So those are the advantages of both option A and B. And speaking with the site principal and others, the site committees that Dr. Mannon has orchestrated, we've been through, much like Westberg and White, we've been through 4 meetings with site committees that are especially put together for these gymnasium packages. It so happens that the principal of Jefferson is on that site committee meeting. And so our recommendation to the board would be option A. We do want to help you. Well, I guess I'll leave it at that, and then I'll show you another slide in a little while. But that's the recommendation based on what we feel is most economical, will fit well with the campus, and is furthest away from any neighboring properties.
Okay, well, thank you. Any questions from the board at this point?
Yeah.
Mrs. Reagan?
I wanted to know the size of the footprint that we're looking at. It's hard to tell from your little squares how big that is.
Correct.
Mrs. Reagan's, it will be between 7,000 and 8,000 square feet.
And that would be the total external footprint, Dr. Mannon, or?
I believe so, although there potentially could be some concrete on the exterior leading into it.
Okay.
It'll be very similar to your Hull Middle School gym. I mean, that was the basis of design.
Okay, and there's still considerations as to whether there'll be any seating for spectators, et cetera, in that
That will come back
facility?
to you as an option at the May 4th meeting when Mr. Miller unveils the renderings and elevations. You will have an option off of those renderings and elevations for bleachers or not have bleachers. It's 4 rows of bleachers is what we're currently discussing. But we will give you a cost, the additional cost for having 4 rows of bleachers.
Okay. You mentioned the underground utilities are available at A. They're not available at the B site?
Well, they will be, but we're going to have to run them from
Okay.
all the way of main campus. So it's going to be a lot more expensive to get them there. That's why I go back to that more economical factor.
Gotcha. And then my last question is, if B were to move slightly to the, my right, but yeah, to the right onto the blacktop, is it preferable to take the green space versus a blacktop area?
They use, in working with their Measure YZ committee,
Mhm.
we are redoing all that blacktop area because they have they wanted it broken up better. So we are doing that now because they want to get their volleyball in one area, their ball walls, their basketball. They have a pretty active PE program. Obviously, we're providing them with a new gymnasium. So there is a certain amount of basketball courts and items being provided with that. In option B, what you would take away if we moved it over would be your ball walls. So we'd have to provide, those in its place. The other thing that we're working with is that between, at the north side, there's the parking lot. At the south side of campus, it's hard to see from here, but there's an entrance into those blacktop areas. Well, there's a 20-foot wide fire access road that has to go through there. And so we can only move B over so far. It would kind of be half on the grass, half on the blacktop in order to still provide that 20-foot fire access road through there.
Okay. Thank you.
And I should point out one other thing with option A is that part of Measure Y and Z, we do have to add a fire hydrant, and we are adding it up by the new science modulars that are going at the A location. So if B were to come on board, the state architect could require an additional hydrant on that side of campus.
Mr. Stefan.
So this area above and to the right, that field above A is not used very often presently.
At this time, no. It's a very difficult supervision area. There's a tree up there that kids sit around, but that's about the extent of the area that they use for the campus or even after school activities.
And it would be possible for that to become extra parking, right?
Yeah, and a matter of fact, we looked at that as part of the YZ scope. It was an ad alternate at that time to YZ. The principals and the site committee at that time chose to upgrade the quad in the middle of campus as opposed to proceeding with that parking lot option, but that definitely could be obviously added as an ad alternate even to this project, or we could look at it.
But I doubt very seriously if we have the funding to do that.
Okay.
Let me follow up on that, or I'll wait for you to be done.
No, I'm done.
Couldn't we find a nexus between the gymnasium and the parking lot, hence being able to put it into Measure U?
I would have to consult legal counsel because we have nothing in there for parking.
with that.
Should you want to do that, we'll certainly do it.
It might be something to talk about. I know there's been a lot of concerns in that neighborhood with the lack of a parking lot. I live across the street, so I need to see the number of cars parked onto Carson, which is perfectly okay, but, I know a lot of the teachers use the park on Carson because I see them get there far earlier than I get to work, so hats off to the teachers. But that's, if there's a way to do that, I know that's been kind of a pain point for the neighborhood over there. Certainly lack of parking, and then, of course, the problems most schools have at 8 in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But that might be able to eliminate some of the pain points, and probably outside the scope of what we're talking about tonight, but maybe something we can look at.
Absolutely.
You keep talking about it's more expensive in position B as opposed to position A. Do you have any idea a quantity when you say that? You just more, or can you?
It'll be a few $100,000 more. And the reason I say that is because one of the main utility lines we're actually bringing in on the north side for the science modulars that are going in there are the sprinkler lines. So we don't have that on the south side. So now we are going to have to tie in, and that's a long run and a very expensive utility. So it would be a few $100,000 for the utilities alone to be able to extend it over to B, as opposed to where A, all of them are right there because of the fact that a lot of those utilities were existing, or they were captured as part of the upcoming mod of YZ monies. So it's kind of like piggybacking on that project.
Forgive us for asking so many questions about B. We received an email from a lady in town who's known President Lee so long she calls him Donnie. So we're kind of being respectful to what she's asking for.
Absolutely.
Okay. One other follow-up to that. What is the distance from the closest point of the gym to the back of the houses on Carmen Street to the north? And then what is the distance from the closest point on B to the houses on Ladine to the west?
Excellent question. Option A, which is Carson to the north, right? Yeah.
Carson, option A is...
what was it?
Carmen to the north.
Carson. Yeah, Carmen. Option A to the north is 50 feet to the back side of the gymnasium. That closest point currently, as we have the building designed. In this instance, that back wall would be, contain no doors, no windows. So the sound from the gymnasium would go out the side, so it wouldn't go behind, if for those homes. It would be centered more towards the campus. So that'd be 50 feet. B, it gets down to 30 feet.
Okay.
And I do have a slide, once we get past Casimir, we've done a sunshade study of these two locations for Jefferson, so you could kind of see
Can we see those now?
Yeah.
All the way at the end.
So there's the sun path on like December 21st at 3 p.m. It's difficult to show, but when we run the whole study, based on the 50 feet away, you may just clip a shadow into a neighbor's yard, but it's very minor. B, you can tell right away. I mean, you can't see it from this photo, but as the sun were to be in the morning sky, will be more present on those neighbors' backyards. We are looking at a building that is going to be, 28 to 30 feet tall, so it's got some significant height.
Okay, well, good. Any other questions from up here?
I mean, the noise level, I've been on school campuses a lot in my life, but when those in a gym, unless it's noisy in the gym, but it's not necessarily noisy outside the gym. We're not talking a bunch of people screaming at a basketball game. We're talking PE playing basketball kind of thing.
It would only be if, doors are left open, obviously, like...
But it would be less loud than playtime, recess time.
Correct, that's for sure.
Well, good. Then I will go to the audience. We'll do it much like we did last time with...
do you want me to go to Casimir or...
Let's deal with Jefferson by itself and then go to Kashmir. So I will try to get these cards sorted out kind of that way. I know Mr. Deemer, Mr. Jones, and Ms. Roseman. So let's start with Mr. Deemer and go through that. So here we go.
This was a school I did go to many years ago. I know what you're talking about by that corner, and it would be nice with the parking, I mean, because it is so busy, as they say. What sports would, one sports would be used in these gyms? So it'd be also, it's Casimir also. What sports are being used in the gym and hall currently?
It's PE. I mean, it'd be
same sports you could have at the high school.
volleyball, basketball,
So
badminton.
So same sports you'd have at the high school gyms, basically.
It's more PE kind of. I mean, it's not going to be competitive. It's going to be PE. So but I mean, yeah. I mean, it'd be basketball, volleyball, badminton. You know, all those things.
Okay. So you're playing inside instead of outside. I've never played basketball and volleyball outside in the school. The size in this building out of these middle school gyms, are they going to be approximately the same size across the district? Yes. I mean, as far as capacity, and whether or not they have the 4 rows of benches would be what the main variable?
That's our variable at this point. We haven't
Correct.
until we get them sited. We're really not going to design them. So once we get them sited, then we'll design them. Look at our budget, look at the cost, and see what's most effective.
And since we're building 7 of them, what economies of scales is there as far as similarity of size and scale?
The buildings will be identical for all intents and purposes.
Just the outside facing, it would be...
No, we'll try to, on the outside of we'll try to match the architecture of the school. So if we've got a brick school, we'll try to use brick on the outside.
Facades, and if it's the tilt-up, it'd be tilt-up type, and... Okay.
Hopefully a little better than that, but yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
we'll
the
try to
look.
soften what they are. If you look at the gym at Hall, it's architecturally interesting as opposed to just a cube.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was designed, here, these are add-ons, and always have difficulty with add-ons sometimes. The construction time on these would be approximately, once everything's approved,
Approximately 12 months.
12 months, and what disruption would be to the classes in that 12-month period, or would it be tied in with the other work, putting the science buildings in?
Correct.
So it'd be just one disruption 1 year, and then all done in the next
That's
4
what we
years.
try. Actually, for a middle school, it's about 18 months.
18 months, so it'd be 2 summers.
That's what we try. Mhm.
Okay.
It's a little different when you and I went there, Charlie.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, when we were there, it was an elementary school.
Yes, it was K through 8.
It was K through 8, and my sister was behind me. It was middle school then, and well, that's a different discussion.
We're getting close to that 3-minute mark. I'm
Yeah,
getting
no,
a
it's
little.
saying, would there be much after-school activities at these gyms?
School district-wise, probably no more or less than what we have now. We have a joint use agreement with the city of Torrance we use their facilities, they use ours. So there's a possibility they could be using this facility for, let's say, their basketball program or something like that.
Or volleyball, or...
Yeah, whatever they have, yeah.
And so that also another thing that comes in about deciding about the benches or not. It seemed to me that if you have the benches, it might make it a little more attractive to the city to have events there.
And again, that's part of the process that we need to go through in the design part.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kevin Jones. And after that will be Jane Roseman.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Kevin Jones. I'm the resident of 21617 Talisman Street, which is the property that directly adjacent to the employee parking lot, the staff parking on Talisman. And I guess my primary questions at this point is, it's already been brought up, traffic is currently an issue in the morning and in the afternoon, coming and going with schools. We know that there's a concern with the amount of parking that is available there. Even on weekends when soccer is on, that lot fills up immediately within the first hour. Where with this facility being positioned there and its multi-use purpose, where is the additional parking going to be supported for that?
Well, that's a good point, and one that we've talked about. That's kind of why Dr. Manna may be talking about a nexus with our attorneys. Ideally, the facility shouldn't affect anything on the weekend because we don't typically use these facilities on the weekends. So it'll be mostly if the city of Torrance wants to use the facility with the joint use agreement. That is a mutual choice. We can say no, they can say no, yes, whatever it may be. And that's something we really haven't developed yet. I know that the J.H. Hall gym, because it doesn't have much seating in it, isn't used in the weekend basketball programs. It is used for practice during the week, sometimes in the evening for different groups in the city program. But I know that it's not used on the weekends when you have back-to-back games over, 5 or 6 hours. So, that could be a consideration if it comes up that maybe this isn't a facility that gets used by the city because there'll be 7 other ones or 6 other ones. Those are things that maybe we'll talk about more when we get to the design process. I would think it would be more appropriate of a conversation at that point than now, where we're just kind of figuring out where it's going to be, right, and what we do. But I think everybody up
public
here,
access to that too, because right now there's a double gate
right
on the end of that building.
So you're in the house. It's what since I grew up in that neighborhood, the new house on the oil well lot. Right, you're right there on the same side of the street as the school, the 2-story houses.
Correct, where the yellow rated.
Yeah, I'm so old. That's the new house in the neighborhood.
Right.
But Charles will back me up on that one. But okay, so I understand, kind of where you're situated there.
Right, and that generally is not public access through that area.
Right.
Which sounds to me like if this turns into a public use facility at some point, that then they would have to create that as an access point to get people in and out of the gymnasium.
More likely that gate there would be used,
right,
if it would be used on the weekends or non-school school hours.
Yeah. So that just creates a lot more foot traffic in that area, as opposed to the point that I was making, I guess, originally would be Carson is more public access side of the building there. It's less impacting on that street corner. There is power plant on that very corner adjacent to the main power plant for the facility, I believe is directly on the east side of that B.
Correct.
So that's where the main power is. I was just kind of addressing maybe this point. I was just questioning the whole point about it, alternate use for that B area, that there is power coming straight out of there. Wouldn't it be accessible for utilities or?
Power is just one utility. There's sewer.
Can we have you come up? There may just be somebody watching this on TV, and they're not going to be able to hear you.
Power is just one of many utilities that would be required for this facility. And yes, power is down below that last building, the last classroom building on campus. But what we're lacking is the water, the sewer, underground, the fire for the sprinkler system, and gas for the heaters and all those other types of utilities. So power would be cheaper, but all those other ones will keep the price going high.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I guess my only last point was just the profile of the building that I'm hearing now. It seems very large. So, I mean, I'm not on Carmen, but I mean, a 50-foot easement doesn't seem an awful lot for a 30-foot high building. It just seems like it's definitely going to encroach upon that entire neighborhood on that side of the. And what's the length? Do we know the approximate length of the building overall?
Dimensionally, Jesse, and again, you're going to have to talk in the microphone so that we know.
It's 8,000 square feet.
Trying to. We don't have the
We haven't
complete
designed it
design,
yet.
obviously,
Yeah,
worked
right.
out yet. But the basketball court gymnasium, which is the main structure for a middle school, is smaller. It's 72 feet to hoop. We had planned about 10 feet on the backside of each one of those hoops. So you're looking at about 100 feet long for the main gym area.
And that would be about, you said about 8,000 square feet, so that'd be about 80 feet wide, right?
Yeah.
70 to 80 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
So in a typical Southwood home lot's about 50 by 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a little bigger, but somewhere in that range. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the footprint is.
Okay, I think that's what all my questions at this point. Thank you.
Okay, good. Jane Roseman?
Good evening. I'd like to add my maiden name, which is Sampson, and my parents bought the house initially in 1956.
Original owners?
Yes, and I inherited the house. They picked that side of the street because of the view of Palos Verdes. So one of my concerns is the height of the building is going to take away my view. That's number one. So my preference, of course, would be B. It seems like it's very close. I'm 4210 Carmen Street, so I'm right behind that. And it seems awfully close. My fence is 8 feet high, so we're talking a high gymnasium. I think you said that the height was what? 25 to 30 feet. So there goes my view, number one.
But just to get, again, and it's not necessarily for you, but for the people in the audience or people talking. By code in the city of Torrance, a two-story house can be 27 feet.
Okay.
So we're about 3 feet taller than what the maximum height of a two-story house is, just to kind of get an idea of what that looks like.
However, the reason that the people on and my immediate neighbors bought on that side was.
No, I understand. I just wanted people
you
to
wanted
kind of
clar-
dimensionally know.
So
what
my
that looks
concern
like.
is the closest to my house and the fact that the view is going to go. And the noise, if there's going to be, activities, like you said, there might not be on the weekend, but it can get pretty noisy on the weekends. So, but basically, I think for me, it was my unobstructed view of Palos Verdes and the closeness to my house.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark Chen.
My name is Mark Chen. I live right in front of Jefferson Middle School. Two problems. One is traffic, especially when school is dismissing. And if they all come together, that's a mess. The second
This
problem-
ideally will not, this is not going to create more traffic at 8 and 3. This is just an additional building, but.
Well, if they all come at the same time.
But again, just to clarify a little bit, we understand there's a problem at 8 and 3, and there is at most school sites at 8 in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon if you live close to a school. That's kind of, unfortunately, not a lot we can do about that. But what I'm saying is the gymnasium itself will not affect that. It's not going to affect the number of kids there. It's just an amenity for the school.
It's for school? You mean no other from outside won't come to?
Well, outsiders, people from the rest of the community potentially could use the site. As I had said a little earlier, we'll probably deal with those questions as we go through the design process. Really tonight, what we're talking about is where this building will be on the site. And then we'll come back and have another meeting similar to this once it's designed. It's a little hard to design these buildings until we know where they're going to go. So it won't, we understand there's a problem at 8 and 3, clearly. In fact, that's why Dr. Mannon's going to look at maybe if there's a nexus, that maybe we could do some additional parking on the site with the bond money. But again, we understand that's a problem, but the building itself will not affect the 8 and 3 traffic.
The other problem is the trash. Right now, I'm suffering from the leaves from schools. Only myself and the other neighbor clean all the leaves from school.
The leaves?
Going to my site. Also the paper or the snack trash. So I don't know if you bring more.
We have the
activities.
principal of the school here, so she is hearing this, and maybe we can address that a little bit. So that's
Yeah.
good that she's here and she's hearing you say
maybe
that.
she should trim down a little bit. I spent more than 3 hours Sunday to just sweeping all the leaves.
But doesn't the
And
wind kind of
yesterday,
blow
more
the
than
other way?
1 hour.
So maybe it was the Santa Ana. Doesn't it typically blow to the west?
Well, it's every day.
Okay.
Those leaves are so dry.
I'm not sure we can do a lot about the leaves, but we'll attempt that one. But it's certainly the trash and those items. The principal is here and is probably hearing our conversation here. So hopefully we'll get a little better at that.
Yeah, maybe the next, the city is going to sweeping alternatively because all that are not supposed to go to ocean. Yet right now, the sweeper come along cannot sweep it because all the car park.
Yeah, and they more than likely will go to parking on only one side of the street in the neighborhood. But we have nothing to do with that. Those are the people that typically are here on Tuesday nights, and you'll be happy to have a conversation with them when that happens, because they haven't done our neighborhood yet. Because that'll be the time where you have to park on different sides of the street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have kind of talked about this site, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
28 feet. There you are. Sorry.
28.
Is
why I
there
sat
something
in the front row.
Is there something that dictates that up or down? I mean, that
yeah, your volleyballs.
Okay.
If it's too low, then any, set up into the air will just hit the roof.
Okay, because I never made it to the basket as a young kid, but so okay, all right, very good.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I have one more question, since you're there. How much do either of those footprints impact the soccer fields that are on the school campus? Because they're right, there are lots of soccer people there every weekend.
A, 0, B, some. Let's put it that way. B's obviously down in, A is that back corner of that lot, and it's just not used. And I think Kara can reiterate this, but it's really not used for any purpose. I don't even know if they ever even use it for PE at all, but B is impacting a little bit of the usable, nice soccer space, because obviously, as you can see from that photo, that's pretty prime location for soccer fields, and so it will take up some space. By the time we add all the site work concrete around, you can start to see how it will impact that area.
This is the school where AYSO started.
Yes,
the whole
yes,
world.
it is.
So that is a consideration. In fact, the founder of AYSO still lives across the street from the school. Jesse, let me ask you a question while you're up there, and I think we talked a little bit about this before. The orientation of Building A is kind of east-west, roughly. What would happen if we moved it? I know we need to maintain a 20-foot boundary around it to allow for that fire lane, but what would happen if we moved it onto the blacktop area, maybe eliminate that first basketball court, since we'll have a basketball court in the facility anyway, to move it further back away from the houses on Carmen, and then to lessen it, because we'd be looking at the short side as opposed to the long side?
Yeah, I think, from the utility standpoint we talked about earlier, obviously that would still work because it's up in that location. So it's still just the utilities are all right there. I think it would be more of a, creating more of that back corner spot. Now it becomes wider again. And so that unusable
That's kind of what we
space-
want to do here, though. Or at least that was kind of what I was after here a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's unusable, I guess, space for the school, and it would become maybe a supervision issue just from like a site. Kids could get behind there, and it'd be a larger space for them to hide out back there. The biggest obstacle, I guess, I would say on doing that is when we went through our Y and Z modernization site committees, the science teachers and the science classroom folk that are getting all those new modular buildings up in that area, we're pretty adamant that we keep all the PE stuff out from them. So that would bring it a lot closer to them. They were really concerned about the noise of PE in front of their doors or anything like that. It can be done. Mr. Lee, it can be done. I think that area of campus is where, our recommendation is that's where it needs to, is ideal. Whether it's right where we show it or a few feet further down to get some more space from those neighbors, we can definitely look at that.
Because here's what my concerns are. In the perfect world, B would probably work because it'd be on Carson. It'd be, in and out, pretty easy, pretty simple. Other than last night after dinner, scared one of my neighbors who didn't know me, and I walked across the street to the person that lives on the corner of Ladine and Carson Street, who, really didn't have much idea about what was going on, and I walked through the house and those kinds of things. Certainly a 30-foot structure, 30 feet behind his fence line is going to affect him. Now, the shadow study really doesn't probably get too far into his backyard, but it gets a ways. And certainly with, his yard is kind of orientated to the north. Mm-hmm. So certainly in the wintertime, that's kind of never really sees much sun and gets damp. And then as you go further down north on Ladine, it gets further and further away. But I think really we've got a problem there of access, number one. Number two is, because it is somewhat of a historic soccer site, even though I'm sure the neighbors would probably just as soon it went away, but it's there. That is a school site that is impacted rather heavily during the seasons that they play soccer. That is a main facility. A funny little aside that on Sunday morning there's a group that plays cricket out there and uses that entire facility, and because I live across the street, get to watch it and find it somewhat interesting, even though I don't always understand it. So I think it's actually on TV now, since I have a new cable TV company. So it's, I found it one night.
We digress. Yeah.
And so I would personally, I like the general area of A, but I would like to be able to move it down, maybe into that corner of that back blacktop, and reorientate it more north and south than east and west. I think that will probably address a lot of the concerns that we have heard tonight, and maybe I'm not too sure the people on Ladine knew to complain, but let's see. He was certainly, accommodating about it. So as I look at it, that's what it is. I think in the perfect world, we didn't have a driveway and we had utilities and stuff. I'd be really happy with Carson Street if it was 50 feet away from that fence line, as A will be, or now it'll be a little bit more than that. But with the driveway and all the other things on that side, I think it gets a little problematic. I walked the site trying to figure it out. So those are my thoughts, and I'll kind of throw it back up to the rest of the board.
I think the more you make, I agree with you, the more you make that, farther away from the houses. The thing that's bothering me is this noise level that people are talking about. I don't see, kids playing basketball outside and running around are going to be a lot louder than about 30, 40, 50 kids maybe a little more, inside a gym that has concrete walls. Wait, okay, louder.
Well, no, we can't be talking from the audience
Oh,
because
sorry.
there's people watching us on TV and they have
He
no
was saying
idea
the
what we're doing.
reverberations of the gymnasium. But the gymnasiums will come obviously with materials to reduce the amount of sound in them, especially with the basketballs bouncing and items like that.
And I bring this up because you said that the science teachers were I've been teaching for 32 years. I've taught next to PE fields. I've taught next to anything, and it can work. I mean, I don't see this enclosed building, being that big of or is it just me, a noise issue?
No, I agree. I don't see it as a huge noise issue either.
See, the height is a problem, but
the height is obviously it's going to be tall. I mean, it's just that's going to be the requirements of a gymnasium. You guys have seen Hall Middle School, obviously, so it's a tall facility. I don't see anything wrong with Mr. Lee's suggestion. I think the general consensus is if that area is the acceptable area, we can play around in that area and offer multiple solutions of that area.
Thank you.
If B is going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, then A is obviously a more sensible choice. But I agree with Mr. Lee. We need to do something to mitigate the presence of the neighbors to the north. So what you can do, however you want to play with it. You're the architect.
We'll give you all the hard stuff. Okay, so we have somebody in the audience waving a pink thing, so he can I think I might recognize that person. Come on up. Come on up.
I apologize profusely for breaking protocol. Clint Paulson, I was late today because I was at a West Torrance Little League game, so that's my attire also, so apologize for that. I just feel like I had to correct one thing real quick, because I heard the gentleman that just spoke say that Site A probably didn't have a lot of impact to AYSO. And I coach in AYSO, and I can tell you that during the fall season, Site A will instruct at least 2 fields for the U6 division, because that's where I coach. At least that's how it's pictured there. They have the U6 play probably from 9 to 3 every Saturday, and that will probably cross over at least 2 fields.
Up on that inside north
Yeah.
field?
What we call the northeast corner.
That's where the younger division plays. They have a little bit smaller fields, and they can fit them in there.
That's what I wondered.
And AYSO has a hard time with field space, as I'm sure you guys are aware, and so losing 2 fields would be a significant impact, I'm sure.
Would be less of an impact because it's going to move all those big fields around.
To move them up?
They would have to reconfigure everything, that's all I'm saying. And if you moved the Site A maybe to the
Well, we're talking about it
east
maybe
or west.
moving it more onto the blacktop, to the little bit
Yeah,
to the
that
south.
would help. That's
and
those
a little
things
bit to
would
the
help.
west is what we're talking about, because we want to have more green space between, the building and the houses on Carmen.
So if we talked earlier about, you weren't here, making that northeast corner a parking lot, that would definitely ruin that. Because, okay.
But in all reality, we couldn't build enough fields in the city of Torrance for AYSO.
I don't dispute that, but I did want to correct what I heard. That's all the only reason I got up here. Because
We could tear out houses every weekend and not build enough fields for AYSO in Torrance.
Yes. So, and by the way, 10 seconds while I'm up here, I didn't get a chance to speak on the pool, but if there's any way in the design of it, there could be some way that it's left to allow for more of a community type pool to be expanded upon it at some day. And this is more for my wife than me, but my little kids, they love to go to the pool. There's really no place for younger children to have a really great pool with splash pads and slides and cool things that other communities have. I know it's not you,
and I
but
have
if you
talked
could leave
about
it in the design, so possibly the city might expand upon it someday, it would be great. That's 2 cents on that.
That's the other guys on Tuesdays. So, yeah.
They sit in the same chairs.
So, okay, well, good. So we get to make some decisions here.
Do you want to make a motion on this and then go to Casimir?
Yeah.
I messed up the last one. Who's going for it?
No, actually, you learned in the last one, so you do better this time.
I will make a motion to approve Site A with, based, depending on the result of the environmental impact review. I get that?
Contingent upon completion of the environmental.
Contingent upon completion of the environmental review. But I also want to see some options as to moving this down, when we come, down into that blacktop space. That's not, can't be part of my motion, though.
Yeah, may I suggest that you just go ahead and say and moving it down into the black space, and then the architects will do their best to move that on down, as you guys indicated.
Karen, did I say that? Okay,
That's
that's
exactly what you said.
All right,
I'll second that, Karen.
Okay, good. And then for the people in the audience, so you know, we'll have another meeting and we'll talk about the building and we'll talk about all of that and we'll notice everybody and.
That's May 4th, remember.
Pardon me?
That will be May 4th.
That will be May 4th.
At our site.
Yes, it's a regular board meeting that night.
And that'll be a regular board meeting. So we'll be at the little place and we'll be able to talk about that there for Jefferson only. And Cashmere at the same time? And Cashmere at the same time. Okay, good.
We have a motion and a second.
We do. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. So we have got one cited. So we will now go to Cashmere.
You talk too long. Can you see it on your iPads?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and speak to that.
Okay, little technical difficulties, but if you can see it on your iPads, yeah.
Did we lose our internet connection again?
I don't know.
Not on the internet.
There it is. Oh, there you go.
Yay, Tim.
Okay, so much like Jefferson, we have two options for Casimir. We'll go through each of the advantages, and then I'll give my recommendation. Option A, you can see front and center at the very front of the school. It allows easy access to the underground utilities. We're actually coming right off that street as part of Westberg and White's Measure Y and Z modernization for this summer for most of the utilities on that campus. Visitor access would be provided without entering the campus, which would be nice if there is any of those after-school activities or weekend activities in the near future. The campus could be locked down and only the gymnasium opened, which would obviously be a great thing for the security, safety of the campus. More visible to the community, this will give Casimir a nice new building as the beacon of their campus, right out front, right before, in front of the admin building, right off the street there. We talked about, the minor gym noise will be further, obviously, away from the classrooms because it will be out on the street, and the admin building is the closest building near it. And again, just closer to that parking lot. I can't iterate that enough in case, for after-school activities or even assemblies or whatnot that, parents come or other features come to that site. Option B places the gymnasium at the back of the campus. The advantages for option B would be that obviously the gymnasium would be located near the play courts. So it is a gymnasium. It's going to be PE. They'd be right next to the existing play courts in that area. So there wouldn't be much, areas to walk for if there's changing rooms involved. It'd be less disruptive to maybe students and staff during construction because it would be way in the back of the campus. As you can see, Casimir has all their buildings towards the front of the campus, separated by all the play courts, and then obviously all the grass fields in the back. You'd have athletics for Casimir isolated at the rear of the campus. And you'd have less disruption at the front of the campus near the homes that are across the street from there. those are the advantages of both. Some of the disadvantages, obviously, B is that it's going to take up some grass space. The gentleman just talked about AYSO soccer and stuff. So I don't know at this campus if they use AYSO here, but that would be grass space removed. Relatively about 8,000 square feet of grass space, at their area in the back of their campus. Our recommendation in talking with Casimir's principal, she was not on the committee, but we went and had a separate meeting with her. And based on everything that Westberg and White has done to date with the Measure YZ modernization going forward would be option A at the front of the campus.
Are there any power or sewage line issues like there was with Jefferson?
No, we've got, because option A has all the utilities coming off of the street, right? So we're right there. Where Westberg White's adding a new fire line for the science modular that is getting added to this campus, and it would go back by option B. So those utilities on either option A or B will be there. Option A, it's just you catch them quicker, right? Because they're as opposed to extending them out from the science classroom.
Was anyone on the committee part of the PE group? Because I've been to Casimir, and the PE storage is the farthest south building. So it's real close to the playgrounds and the grass and stuff like that.
I don't believe, Dr. Manning?
No one from Casimir is on the site design for this. However, as Jesse indicated, we've gone back to the principal, and the principal obviously talked to the site committee that was in place there.
Okay, I see why we would choose A, but it's a long ways away from the PE.
Yeah, I think so. But the other piece that comes into play, and I don't want to be too blunt, but Casimir just is not a welcoming place, in my opinion, in terms of how the school looks. It has zero street appeal. Sorry, but it has zero street appeal. This would, in fact, change the whole look of the school. By putting this there in the front of the school, it changes the look. Number two, a piece they were very interested in is that it has access from the parking lot should people want to utilize that facility. So it does change the look of the school for sure if it goes in that direction.
And to reiterate on your question, Mr. Wormers, as we work through these committees with the gymnasium, storage is a part of these gymnasiums. So, the PE storage on the south side of the campus wouldn't be as big of a concern once the gymnasium's obviously in place.
It's a long ways from the playground.
Just a longer ways from the playground, but it's kind of a straight shot through there.
It's a long ways.
And did the site principal or the staff have any, as far as organizing children walking from the field to there through buildings to access the front A, the access option A, would that be difficult at all from the school site?
Well, that's their recommendation, is that correct?
Mrs. Reagans.
Yeah, actually changing the front of what the front of that school looks like is a pro and a con, because you'd also have this 30-foot high building sitting in front of the school.
Well, that also goes to the way that it's going to be designed. So.
Okay, and also from my perspective, it will block the administration building. It's hard enough to see where the office is there to begin with, and it would be even more difficult, I believe, with a 30-foot high building sitting there. Just saying.
Yeah, actually, what it says with the setting, you can see the existing sidewalk right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to change anyway with the front of that school under the Y and Z piece.
Okay, well, I don't know what the design's going to look like. And the other thing is that it's far outside the fence line at present. And the intention is to keep it outside of the fence line so that if students are using it during the school day, they'll be outside the fence line?
That fence line will change.
Okay, so it will come out to meet the gymnasium?
It will actually change, and what the Westberg and White plan is for Casimir you may recall, you may not, because, we ran like six
Right,
through it
right.
at one time, is that there's wrought iron going in the front of that school.
Yes, I do recall that.
Yes, so the wrought iron fence line will change so that you could actually enter, I believe, you could enter the gym as students without leaving the campus.
Okay. Sort of like they did at Hull, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
Kind
is
of halfway.
that's a great example. It would
Okay.
work like that.
Okay, so I assume those alterations had been considered, but. Okay, thanks.
Mrs. Deutsch.
I just like what you said, Dr. Mannon, about it's going to give it a nice curb appeal. And I could see the way how the students can walk through in order to get to the field and to the basketball. So I actually like A.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Deutsch. And one other thing to remember is that when we've approved these sites for Jefferson, as you already did, and Casimir, now those are turned over again to our video surveillance consultants, because those will be included as part of the video surveillance packages.
It's not likely they'll change anything, though.
It actually will increase some cameras, I think,
Of course.
in those
It's
areas.
not likely they're going to tell us, no, you need to go back to B if we choose
Oh,
A.
no. That won't happen. I just was reminding everyone that that's another step that has to take place, is that it will go back to the consultants for review as to where those cameras are located.
The only negative I can come up with is having been to the campus, it's a hike from the gym to the playground. And
They're young.
no doubt.
Mr. Wormers, from having the committee been through three or four of their meetings now, there is a few gym teachers on that committee from different campuses. They've expressed that it's an either-or situation. Either they'll be outside or they'll be inside. So it's not as big of a hike, because they'll either be, on a rain day, then they'll use the gymnasium, or if it's badminton day, they'll use the gymnasium. If it's basketball and it's outside is warm, then they'll go outside and use the play court. So they weren't so concerned about it. I know one of the committee members had been working with Casimir as through the process, and it didn't seem to be too big of a concern if they were right next to the play courts or if they did have to go.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Okay, and then, as we go through the design phase, we'll be able to see how your design interfaces with the existing design, and there'll be some sensitivity to all of that, as I see the other architect nodding.
Correct. I mean, these won't be Costco buildings, right? So you guys did pay us to be the architects, so they will be beautiful buildings. So it's not just going to be a 30-foot high box.
Okay.
Curb appeal.
That sounded like
curb
a threat, yes.
Yes.
But, okay, well, good. We have a couple of people that want to speak to this item, so first one up is Charles Porto.
Thank you very much. In looking at the building improvements, the meeting that we had back in October, you talk about it being close, being close to a parking lot. On your building improvements, you have planned new parking right where A is. And there's only 6 parking spaces, and that's teacher parking. That will be right above A. The other parking is down at the other end of the property, and there's only 11 spaces there. And the point I'm trying to make is that parking is a problem. I live in the townhomes right on Artesia Boulevard, Artesia and Casimir. There's, I know we talked about traffic, and I'm not talking about parking. Parents seem to think that our driveway and our driveway into the property and on Casimir is theirs, that it's not private property. I don't know how many times I've had to ask people to leave our property because they're trespassing. They block our entrance and exit onto Casimir, both in the morning and the evening. So when you talk about there being parking at A for whatever's going on there, you're not going to have, there really isn't any sufficient parking now, and there's not going to be any more parking if you're going to take that new parking lot and 10 proposed spaces.
Yeah, let's deal with that. Staff, can we elaborate on that or talk a little bit more about that? We've got all the architects and everybody here.
Yeah, Westbrook and White was talking about that.
So why don't we deal with everything in little pieces? Is that okay?
Okay.
To have him talk about the parking and how it affects A.
Right, and I still have another concern.
Yeah, you can come back up, yeah.
A eliminates parking?
This is the first time I've seen the proposal. We are removing portables right there where A is located, and we were putting parking in there.
Oh, we have a failure to communicate.
So if we don't put A there, there'll be parking there?
Isn't that correct, Tom? Yes.
But only a few spaces.
Approximately how many?
7,000 square feet of spaces.
Just to clarify, where A is a proximity location from Jesse on Westbrook and White site. What is underneath A is two portables that are actually going away, so the footprint for the gymnasium is going to take that spot, and the parking that is designed will be in play during Y and Z.
But are we going to replace those 10 parking spots somewhere else? I just got a lot of people out there. I figured somebody might
No,
know.
those 10 parking spaces, they'll be eliminated. But you can fit additional parking spots in there once HMC reorients that area. You're going to get some more parking spaces in there. It's just based on how it's oriented and rotated. Maybe that building A is more at an angle, not orthogonal like that. So I think you're going to have to see the different site layouts before you know how many.
So if we were to make a
parking spaces are
motion and
eliminated.
said that we have to retain the 10 parking spots that we're a little worried about
That-
losing, you'll figure it out.
The gaining of the 10 parking spaces under this current phase was a bonus because we removed 2 modulars.
Correct.
So
bonus is good.
Yeah, it was a bonus, correct. But where the gym is sited on building on Section A right now could possibly still have some parking spaces.
But not 10.
In 10. I don't know that. That's something the HMC has to work out in the corner there. But
So if
I'm
we
not
put it-
saying that they're going to lose all 10 spaces.
But you're saying if we put it at B, we'll have 10 spaces.
Well, you put it at B, that's true, but then again, you're extending all your utilities a lot
Yeah,
further.
we got utilities out there
Yeah,
already.
you're
Well,
gonna
you
lock-
got them out. You got them out as
there.
far as the portables, the science rooms. Then you have to drag them from there.
You're only getting fire, water, and sewer in that little area there. Everything else gets pulled further because it's coming from a different location on site.
So fire, water, sewer, then we need gas.
Gas
That's
is
it.
coming from another end of the other side of the site right now to connect. So
2 portables is a couple thousand square feet, right? We have each portal is about
2
930.
portables is 1,920 square feet.
Okay. And so this is 4 times that size.
Right. I think there was a site. Didn't you have a? Sorry if I'm met. Oh, I thought there was another site that showed. There it is. See the 2 portals there? They're there now.
We don't have.
Yeah, it's where
Oh, we don't have. We have a PDF of it. We can't.
If you look up at the site, there's the 2 portables now.
Right.
Those are going away, and a parking lot's going where those 2 portables are, with 10 parking spots. Then you put A in front of that, and you'll have to just rework it. Now, the A is probably a different shape than what maybe the other, multi-purpose rooms are going to be. I don't know. That's something HMC needs to do.
And then you got the side of the building facing.
Okay, I'm a little worried that we're going to be up here designing a building and we're not.
Yeah, that's not
capable
our
of
job
doing
here.
that.
Right. So A is the real what we're looking for obviously is AB is just a location on site so that we can then do the California Environmental Quality, the EIR report that we talked about. If A is the one that's obvious, is the obvious one chosen by you guys, the board, then HMC and Westburg White, we will look at redesigning that area to capture not only that building, but what improvements were going to be provided as part of Y and Z. We haven't gone that far yet because we don't know if you want A or B or
Okay,
C.
But
that
let's say
don't
we
know of.
pick, let's say Mr. Stefan made the third motion of tonight, and that motion
want the paper.
included, yes, and Mr. Stefan included as a condition that we liked A, but you have to retain the 10 parking spots that we're missing, then we would be, everybody could work that out.
Or maximize the available.
No.
Correct. Yeah, that would be the best language, is because
With
we
a
don't-
lot of efforting towards 10, to
Correct.
use an ESPN word.
Yeah.
But if we choose B, we get 10 spaces.
You do get 10 spaces. I don't know if you'll have any pushback from the neighbors on that side, because it will be up on that north side by all those homes. You are losing
You didn't
grass
mention that
space.
10 minutes ago.
Well, I didn't say the disadvantages. I only said the advantages so that you guys could understand the both. But disadvantages of B are obviously, it is by all those homes on the north side. You do lose a lot of your play field space that was talked about earlier. And it is back there kind of on an island. It's your brand new building that no one will see, right?
I gather you like A.
Well, that's my recommendation to you. But for me, well, of course I like A because I'm an architect and I want my building in the front, right? But, the B works as well. I think A just, as Dr. Mannon pointed out, and in discussions with the site principal, the site really wants an identity. Brand new building kind of gives it that out front. And as where B kind of hides it in the back of the property.
A with as much parking as you can get.
And then, then we have Mr. Porto up for the rest of it. So we drove that one to ground anyway.
Thank you. The architect called it a beacon in the community, and I look at beacon as a derogatory term. Right now, if you drive down that street, you have beautiful trees, you have very nice residential homes, you have grass in front of the school. You're going to put a big, giant building and then try to squeeze in parking spaces around it, and you're going to lose that country feel that's there on Casimir Street. It's if you decide for A, once you build it, it's an eyesore, whether you like it or not. I don't consider it a beacon. I don't think it adds anything to the aesthetics of the neighborhood. I think it only detracts. And I'm sure the people that live across the street aren't going to want to look at a 30-foot tall building and take away that feel of grass that you have there and the small community. It's turning Casimir then into a city street. And I think that's very, very, very bad for the street and that part of the area.
Mr. Porto, have you had a chance? We're not going to have this discussion, and we're not going to be able to deal with this exactly tonight. But I think the gym at J.H. Hall, which is literally between a parking lot and where the facility is. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
I have not.
But that's architecturally kind of interesting from the street. I had, because the gymnasium was a late add. So I think the board was kind of concerned about how it would interface with the facility and those kinds of things. And it really is it isn't, I think of another middle school gym, which is the Paris Middle School gym. They're off of Prospect and Redondo Beach, not our school. And that's merely a concrete tilt-up building with a blue stripe on it. Mm-hmm. But these buildings will be a little more than that. And again, a two-story house in Torrance is 27 feet. So this will be much higher. We're not talking about the Union Bank building, but no doubt it'll be a big structure. But again, I'm not adverse to either location. I'm just trying to kind of ferret out everything that needs to be discussed tonight.
I appreciate that. But again, when you make that turn onto Casimir, that's really going to be the main thing you see up ahead is this giant building, and it will detract from the feel of the whole neighborhood. I've lived there 34 years in the townhomes. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association. We've had to deal with the parking and the traffic and the students on our property, who the principal has taken care of many times. But to have this right out there as identifying Casimir Middle School, I think it's a very the wrong way to go to have a beacon. The plans that were provided at the October meeting showed what the front of the school was anticipated looking like, and that kept the feel of the neighborhood, and it did bring a presence to the school. It did make it look pleasing to everybody, not only the students, the teachers, but to the neighbors. I've taken many of my hours being on the board of the association trying to make our townhomes look beautiful on that corner. And I think to add that element of cityfication in a small little community is the wrong way to go. And unfortunately, we just received your letter mid-March. This gymnasium was not at the meeting, and I don't think there's probably a lot of people that are here tonight that understand what's going to happen with the decision tonight. And I know those people that are going to live across the street are going to say, "Oh my gosh, what the heck happened there? How in their right mind could they have done that?" And when it's finished, no matter how architecturally you can design it to make it blend, there's nothing that it can blend with that is, the school is 1 story, 1.5 story. I don't think there's anything there that will make it blend into the community. And that's
Thank
my
you, Mr.
feeling.
Pardo.
Can
And
I just wanted to elaborate on that, though. It will not be completely out of character from the neighborhood because the townhomes are 2-story homes.
That's correct.
And most of the homes across the street are 2-story homes.
No, there's only one home, I believe, that's 2
But
stories.
that neighborhood has a variety of 2-story
Right, that's-
homes within it.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a super sore thumb sticking up, but
in fact, your condos are what, 2 stories above subterranean parking, right?
Our townhomes, no, there is
No,
no
just
subterranean
2-story.
parking.
Oh, so they're all at grade, so they're about
Yes, they are.
27 feet
Yes, they
tall.
are.
So, yeah, no, I understand your point, but I can also sort of see it fitting in because of the other things around it.
I can't.
Well, you're taking away part of the beauty of the school by putting it right smack dab there in the front. And that's my feeling from living there in the community 34 years. I'm one of the original owners there, and it's a beautiful street to drive down to see the trees, and Lord knows what trees are going to be removed to put the building in, and landscaping and so on. But that's just my feel. It's a beautiful neighborhood, a great place to live, and thank you.
Good. We're kind of over the 3 minutes,
Right.
even though it's kind of my fault too.
Thank
So we have one more speaker, Jerry Kenoyer. Probably got close.
Good evening. I'm a North Torrance resident. I live, my property is a little bit closer to B on that north. My property butts up against the school fence. I do see another problem with the B location in that one of my big concerns as a resident on the north side was the water drainage off of the buildings. There's never been gutters. There's never been any sloping land to carry the water to Casimir. It all runs downhill in the northern direction and fills up the raised foundations along a series of houses, one of which was mine. And B, they're going to correct that in Y and Z. But B would add another 100 feet to that slope that's going to be required to get that water from there out to Casimir, because there's no other way to, I guess you could dig a trench all the way out to the street on the north side, or I'm sorry, east side, but anyway. The A site, I don't think you can make that building consistent with the other buildings in appearance because the other buildings are so old. My one concern at the A location would be how close it is to Casimir, the street. Horrible street for school, like all the schools, I assume, as far as drop off and pick up and all that. I was trying to get some interest in putting a drop off lane on the east side of Casimir, because the only thing in the way is the sidewalk and the school sign for putting a full street width down that side for a drop off lane. Right now the buses park and you can't get two cars with a bus parked on one side and the car on the other side. They're letting kids off in the middle of the street. There's no crosswalks. It's a chaos. Anyway, the school, as long as they don't, do we know the setback from A to the Casimir street curb as far as how many feet? In case they ever do want to do a drop-off lane.
I actually don't know. It'll be set by the city of Torrance building department, so we'll have to take a look at that.
Typically, it'd be a 20-foot setback.
Yeah.
It would be an
And a
R1 front
minimum.
yard setback. Now, I don't know from a scaling standpoint whether it has to go back more, but I know that a two-story house in Torrance has to have a minimum of a 20-foot front yard setback.
Yeah, like I said, it would be based on city of Torrance standards and 20-foot minimum sounds about typical for most school or for most cities. So we would work with that as the minimum and try to keep it back as far as possible.
I did have another question. I was trying to get some information about the meeting tonight, and I happened to go into the school and ask someone there, and I was surprised to learn that no one on the school administration at Casimir was involved in the committee, and I wondered why that was, and there was no representative from the community immediately around the school that participated in the committee. I should mention this, I was a kind of a community representative, being a property owner on that side in the Y&Z, 9 meetings we had or whatever. And it was appreciated very much to be on the loop. And I had an agenda for my property because of the water drainage. Which,
Yeah. Jerry, the answer to your question is these are projects so that there is not a site committee, there is a design committee. So the design committee is for the entire district. Then once it's designed for the entire district, the architect goes back to the site. In this case, it was the principal, and talked to the principal, and I'm sure she talked to some other staff members because a couple of physical education teachers had indicated that that's how it happened.
Oh, good. And one other question, I wasn't familiar with the design that you're using. Is it a kind of a cookie cutter design where you're using it throughout the district?
Ideally, yes, we wanted them all to be the same just so we can save in building costs and those kinds of things.
I don't think Hull has any restrooms in the gymnasium, does it?
They do not.
Is this one going to have restrooms?
I can't tell you yet, Jerry, until we do complete the design.
Okay, I would recommend, obviously, that they have restrooms, because one of the issues with external use of the community with if they do use the gymnasium, which doesn't sound like it's ruled out, is that the soccer fields that run have a porta-john. And the kids abuse the porta-john, they tip it over, they rock it. The kids go in it and play, believe it or not, which is not too neat. Anyway, they didn't used to even have that. So the parents that were playing, because they have adult leagues there for soccer, would urinate on the backside of the school, because my fence is right there. I can see right what's going on. Anyway, so I would, if I can make that input, drinking fountains and a restroom in there would be very much appreciated.
Now, would you prefer B or A?
Personally, I would prefer A. There's nothing, B, I just see it as more costly, and it really kind of creates a hidden area behind the B for kids. I don't know.
Jesse, how far is B from that rear fence line in your design or your siting?
The north fence side or the east?
Oh, yeah.
The northern side.
You mean the north side to
Yeah,
the
the
north
north.
homes? Right now, we've got it hugged up on there, so it's 30 feet off. We can move it anywhere you want along there. The only problem is it really detracts from the school's softball fields they've got backstops back out there that get used frequently, and then again the field space for soccer activities or other PE activities. So we tried to hug it up against there to not impact all of what they can, what the school can, and what other outside activities can use that grass space for. If that makes sense.
Okay, good. Okay.
And one other thing, is it going to be air conditioned?
No.
So the doors are going to have to be open, or windows are going to have to be open when they're using the gymnasium?
It will have ventilation, Jared. But
Fans?
Yes.
I see. So you don't anticipate closing, well, the fans are only going to suck air from the outside. If it's 100 degrees outside, it's going to be more than 100 degrees inside.
It happens both ways as to, in terms of how it's used over at home. So I can tell you some days the doors are open, real hot.
Yeah. I'm just looking at
Yeah,
the
I
noise
mean, yeah.
aspect, because we were talking about the.
But
doors
again, we
being
had talked
closed.
about, you've got noise on the playground anyway, so.
Oh, I enjoy the noise.
Yeah.
It's not so much that, but when you have a gymnasium with the doors open, it is a more, it's a different sound. But anyway, I just wanted to know about the air conditioning. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Marjorie Morris.
Good evening. My name is Marjorie Morris, and I live just north of Casimir School on 171st Street. My backyard backs up right to the 6th grade section right there. I was really surprised to see the position of A. I am a landscape architect. I'm retired, and that just seems so out of context to me with the school. Right now, it's got this very nice grass with this building set back, very pastoral. It's where the kids gather before and after school waiting for their parents. I agree completely with this gentleman right here about a big building at the front of the school like that. It'll be an eyesore, and it's just totally out of context with what's already there and how the neighborhood are. As far as B goes, right there on that corner, it's just a sand lot with some very old-fashioned swings and a porta potty. To move it farther south from the fence, I think is a good way to go. There's a lot of grass out there. That's a big piece of property out there for the kids to play on, a soccer and a baseball. Right now it's just wire fencing for the backdrops, so it wouldn't be anything to move that and improve that. But again, right where A is are two Chinese elms that have been there for a long time. They add real beauty to the school. They're part of the context of the trees in the rest of the neighborhood. We're considered a tree section there because of the beautiful trees. And I just think putting that, I don't care how nice the building would be, a 30-foot building, and I don't know how long it is, out there in the front of the school would just be a white elephant. And I want to urge the committee to really think about that and what it's going to do to how the neighborhood looks. And it's just going to split the neighborhood right there because it's so big. and being two-story like that. And the neighborhoods have two-story buildings, but it's not a lot. And as far as the size of the condos, the height of the condos, they're on a major street. They face Artesia. And then they only come back into the neighborhood on Casimir, maybe 30 feet. So I don't think that's really a valid point to balance out that we could have a big building like that at the front of the school. So I urge you to really think about that. The context is just not right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have one more person with a card. Come on up.
I'm going to hold on to my card for a second because I have my notes. Thanks for letting me talk tonight. My name's David DeWitt. I'm a resident here in Torrance and just happened to come by and see your conversation tonight. A couple of things. I think it's a great idea. We got some perspectives here from landscape architects. So I think it's a good idea to reach out beyond the architect. There's a lot of professionals out there that can help soften the front of these establishments. Chinese elm, awesome. Siberian elm, stay away from those. Also, reach out to the fire department and the police department when you get these recommendations. If there's anything particularly that we should avoid or beneficial from this. And I was thinking of one example is, will this actually double as a emergency response building at one point? Could it be or should it be? Or is there still like a multi-purpose room that will still function as that? So maybe there is a beneficial site to actually separate from a building or to actually bring it closer. During the rain, B looks like an odd location if you're actually shuttling kids during the rain to actually do an activity. That looked a little odd. But then again, the circulation of having kids in A when it's really opposite of where the activities are going. So it's just more of a, please consider the pedestrian plan and the circulation when you look at this. And yeah, that concludes my comments, but thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Okay.
I have two more questions for HMC.
And we have worn this group out as well. So I'll bring it back up here for conversation, recommendation, direction.
Can I ask
Mrs.
two more
Reagan?
questions? So the drainage issues in that field are being corrected in Y and Z? Or at least before we thought about putting another building out there, the intention was to make those improvements. Okay. So you didn't mention whether there was utility access out there and whether the utility access where B is varies depending on where it's placed on that campus, up or back, north or south?
Correct. I mean, right next to B is where Westberg and White has placed the new science modular. So those utilities are coming in.
To the south of B?
No, right next to it, like to the east or west, let's call
So
it.
on the hard
On the hard
path.
top.
Okay.
So they'll actually be coming down, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're coming down the north side of that last building, correct?
Coming across the north, fire road there, out to the playground area.
Okay.
So the further north we are, the closer we are to the utilities for those
Right.
particular ones.
Well, I was just thinking in terms of aesthetics, putting it in the center of that would be perhaps more pleasing to the eye to have it centered on the blacktop and on the campus, because then it would be centered on the block of the campus. But that also moves it further from the utility access.
That, and we looked at that originally. What it does too, though, is it divides your play fields.
Mhm.
So right now they've got the backstops in the corners of both those sides. If we put it in the middle, you lose both. If you put it on one side, you only lose one. And obviously, there's no ideal situation, right? These are 1950 campuses, and we're adding a new building onto one of these campuses. So we try to put it where it makes sense for economics, aesthetics, and all the other factors. So.
And this is the first time we've done this too, so we'll get through it. Anything else from my fellow board members?
Would you have to get rid of the Chinese elm trees?
I don't see why. I mean, there's a big open grass area there. That's where we assumed it was going to go, and there's 2 portables there. So obviously the trees aren't in the portables, right? So the Chinese elms, I believe, are showing. They're the ones that are on kind of the north west corner of where we're showing A. I don't recall. Maybe John, you guys know.
I'm looking at a map from Yahoo Maps here without the yellow squares on it, and there's some very big trees right there, and then there's one little smaller one up a little north corner of it, in that parking lot.
So it would, you know, the building I do not believe would impact those at all, but trying to fit the 10 parking spaces may. But
maximize
the 10 parking spaces may. So we'd have to obviously look at that. If A is the option that you guys eventually decide on, we'd have to redesign that whole front area to, you know, maximize parking. We can look at keeping trees and how that all integrates into itself.
The number one problem with politics and political body, unintended consequences. We solve one problem, we create another one. Anyway, okay, well, good. Anything else from my fellow board members?
Still don't like A, but.
Okay, then make a motion for B.
I could do that. It's Mark's night to make motions.
Yeah, give it to the, okay.
This evening, yes.
Yeah, it is. The drainage issue. I mean, when YZ, this was not considered as an option, so the original drainage was not necessarily planned.
It is in the YZ.
Oh, okay.
Not the additional building.
Right.
The drainage that Jerry talked about.
Okay, so then my question is that drainage plan that you have created going to be affected by this building?
Yeah, most likely. But that's part of why Jefferson and Casimir are the first 2 out the chutes, because we do have a year-long construction schedule for Y and Z for Jefferson and Casimir. So the goal obviously would be to decide on a placement. The design would proceed, as Dr. Mannon said, our next meeting is May 4th. And as we continue to proceed through this, construction doesn't start on Casimir until, you know, school gets let out in June. So we have that time to be able to solve that problem.
So we may see some, I hate the 2 words in the world, change orders that would accommodate possible, or just.
Correct. It'll be those changes for when we add our building would be part of our dollars. For the gymnasium project.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But the YZ would need to be sized and make sure it accommodates everything.
So B, we get the same thing out there next to a science lab, and if we don't choose A, we end up with parking, which is not a beautification either. But we end up with parking and we leave Casimir. I live on a street with a lot of beautiful trees. It's called Beach Street. And, yeah, so I'm kind of sympathetic to that issue. So, based on that, I think are we ready for a motion?
We can do that.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve Site B. Okay. And I don't need to do the maximizing of spaces anymore. On condition on approval of, okay, read that part again to me, would you?
Contingent upon completion of the environmental review process.
Thank you. Karen, you said that, right? Okay.
And think about moving it down a little?
Well, I guess when you propose it in that motion, and we could see alternate positioning of the building.
Just why don't you, if you want it to move down forward, then just give that direction. That's what the architect said.
Okay. I don't know if I want to move down forward. Well, 30
However
feet.
it fits with the drainage, perhaps. I think the closer it is, perhaps the more issue there is with that.
Yeah, we're working on this. I mean, I don't know how.
Well, then it'll just be part of the plan.
I think the architects have heard what we're saying. Now, whether they understand it or not is another question, but I think they've heard what we're saying, yes.
I'm not sure we understand it.
Yes. But that's okay. We have
Karen's looking at me.
Momentum somewhere.
Okay.
so
No, you're not looking at me? Why not, Karen?
I'll second Mark's motion.
Okay, that's about as rambling as we can get. So, any other motions, any other concerns, anything? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, good. We go 4-1. So, good. Okay, so we have that done. So now we go to item number 5. Number 4, that's right, auditoriums. I keep trying to go one more ahead. So I'll need a motion to approve placement of auditoriums at North High School, South High School, and West High School campuses, contingent upon completion of the environmental review process.
Mr. President, Architect Angel Hosban is here. I think we've discussed in the past, she'll show you that we're proposing that at South and at West High Schools that the auditoriums go where they were originally designed for when the school was built. We do not believe there are other options for those two schools without further impact on their fields. You will see 2 options for North High School and also the cost for each one of those. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Hosban.
Good evening, board members. We saved the best for last, and hopefully the easier sites to get through tonight. As Dr. Bannon said, we're going to go through South and West High School. We will only show one option because we are going to be respectful to the master planning for those 2 high schools. South is first. We will be positioning the Performing Arts building on, I guess, their existing tennis courts. They're off of PCH, right? And so part of this project, we will be relocating those tennis courts near the other tennis courts in the field area. We did a quick little cost estimate to let you know about how much it will cost just to relocate the tennis courts, and that will be included in the construction of the Performing Arts building at option A.
Do you want to say something?
I'm sorry, do you have a
Mrs.
question,
Deutsch.
Ms. Reagan?
No, I just.
And I'll go to Mrs. Reagan.
Me first?
Yeah.
No, I just had a question. Where will the tennis courts be relocated?
That was my question.
On the back side of the campus where the other tennis courts are.
Okay.
You can kind of see the tennis courts under the cost estimate.
Okay.
And that was at the request of the school administration.
Thank you.
All right. That was easy. Do you want to make a motion on this at all, or do you want me to go to?
Yeah, we'll just go through all of them.
Okay.
This one might be a little simpler.
Yes.
Gotta be.
So,
No.
we have, I just pushed this over, West High School. Also, we're only showing one option based on the master plan. The option A is off of Del Amo on that corner. It is near the existing parking lot and near the music classroom buildings, which is great. And we'll create an iconic entrance and a view of the campus from that corner. There's nothing there to relocate, so we don't have additional costs in order to place this building in the option.
Again, there's nothing there because that's what was supposed to be there under the original
Yeah, we
design.
didn't build a pumping station there.
Yes, we had that discussion.
Okay.
Okay, on to North High School.
Can I ask a quick question?
Okay, yes.
The footprint for this building will be?
17 to 18,000 square feet. And you can see it will fit right into that space.
And I want to remind the board too, we are in the process of the West High School modernization. So we're hoping, excuse me, that we can, work with that project and fold this project in the submittal to DSA. So we're wanting to submit this building in by November 2nd of this year.
Rock and roll.
I know,
Okay.
right. Okay, so we have North High School, and we have two options that we're going to present for North High School. We met with the North High School principal and a few other athletic instructors, and we came up with these two options for this campus. Option A is located off of 182nd Street, off of the parking lot, and there's a large parking lot there, so that's one of the advantages. It's also over unutilized fields. I think the North Campus, they use those fields as just practice fields. Unfortunately, the disadvantage is you'll see underneath that option are Edison portables. There are 5, I believe, Edison portables there. We're also adding a science classroom that will be added there as well. And then there's a music portable that's as part of Y&Z, Measure Y&Z. That's also going to be located there. And that's currently being bid as we speak.
So let me interrupt Angel by saying that is a real problem since Edison has come out of DSA. The site plan was developed by the site committee, which was sent to DSA, which was approved by DSA. Now, Angel has indicated to me she cannot get the center, the auditorium center, in without moving onto the Edison campus. So you can obviously see we have a problem immediately with that whole piece of Edison potentially having to be moved if, in fact, you would choose Site A, and that would mean I feel obligated to go back to, the Edison Site Committee because of all the work they did over last year, and we had a final approved site by them and also by DSA. And again, that is where, because by the time we finished with Edison last year, we knew we were going to have measures T and U, and so we did discuss with them, should it be approved, where would we put the science lab? So we know where the science lab actually would go, and again, it would be in that same area that's affected by option A.
Now, there's a way that we can move the portables, and it would actually be located between the Edison campus and the North campus along that fence line. But there's a drainage or a trench between. We'd have access issues in order to get to those portables if we do decide to relocate them, and it'd be costly.
Well, you have a spreadsheet here. It would cost about $360,000 to do that?
That's just to relocate
get
the utilities for the portables themselves.
Just the utilities,
Yes.
not the actual
Not the
buildings, not
access.
any of that?
Not the access, because I'm not sure exactly. We don't have a survey of that area, so I don't know exactly what the cost impact would be.
Okay. Any other comments from staff? From the board? Option A, yeah.
Okay, so option B, we would locate it on 3 of the existing tennis courts. There are 12 tennis courts at this site, a lot more than the other high schools. We talked to the athletic director on the site, and he let us know that they need at least 11 courts in order to run both varsity and JV at the same time. So if we do locate the Performing Arts building at option B, we would relocate only 2 tennis courts further south below that softball field that you see on the map right there.
So there's space below the field?
Right,
Okay.
right. One of the advantages of option B, you still have a street presence off of Yukon. We would actually push it out slightly into the student parking lot so that you would be able to see it somewhat from 182nd Street coming down onto Yukon. It's also near the dance and music classrooms, and also close to, I believe there's a performing arts in that multi-purpose room area too. So moving over all the large music equipment would be fairly easy if it was in this location. It's also adjacent to the student parking lot, so they could use that parking lot in order to go and see some of the performances in the performing arts building.
What is the advantage of pushing it into the parking lot and losing those spaces, other than you can see it easily?
Well, it is curb appeal, but if we push it back, it will be, I think, a little more difficult and disruptive to the rest of the campus in order to try and get it over the tennis court areas. There will be delivery to the back of the performing arts building.
Which is the back facing the school, and the curb is the front?
Correct.
Mr. Stephan, also, with measures Y and Z, we added how many parking spaces, Mr. Westberg, right down in that area by the stadium?
More than 10?
Quite a bit.
Oh, I believe it's over 50.
Oh, okay. All right.
That we built a whole new parking lot down by the stadium.
All right.
And the rectangle that you see there,
Stepson.
that isn't the correct footprint of the building. It's just a graphic representation.
Oh, okay.
Our intent is to have somewhat of a plaza in front of the performing arts building.
Oh.
So that, you don't go right from a parking
Okay.
stall into the doors of the performing arts building. So that's why we kind
Just
of
out of
pushed it out.
curiosity, how
Yep.
tall is this building? It's just been going all night about it.
The height will be between 40, 45 feet, around there. It is a
could
tall
play volleyball
structure,
in there.
but that's just the main volume. The seats and the stage will be about that. There are supporting spaces, like the lobby out in the front, or the scene shop maybe in the back, that we're looking at lowering, so it'll be a little bit nicer scale to the street.
Okay.
Good.
So
Is staff recommending B?
staff is recommending B.
So we
We
have
did
a
a quick
motion?
cost estimate.
Oh, we have Charles Deemer that needs to speak.
Okay.
Wait, can I hear the cost estimate?
Sure.
Oh,
And we talked about option A. It doesn't include all the accessibility issues that we'll have to endure in order to make that option work. Option B, this includes the relocation of the 2 tennis courts. And even without the accessibility issues, option B is still a little cheaper than option A.
Okay.
Okay?
I do have one question
Okay.
on the estimate, the term I did use. It says teledata, security, fire alarm, and then parentheses, home run. Well, I'm, baseball tonight, so I'm just.
Electrical.
Lighting?
Electrical.
Electrical, okay.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Deemer is up next.
Having attended West Side, that empty spot there was always kind of funny that there was no buildings out there. Now I see why, because it's supposed to be an auditorium. So the first question is, the 3 auditoriums going to be the same size as far as seating capacity, as close as you can fitting into the
It'll be 500 seats.
It'll be 500 seats. So
Yes, that's about the size of the Armstrong.
Armstrong, okay.
It will not be as elaborate. I will say it.
Well, let's go the other way around. In comparison to the size of the Torrance High,
That's 900.
900. So these are all going to be 2/3 the size or less.
Yeah.
600 is too.
You're the accountant, so you have to tell me.
Yeah, well, I mean, less than 2/3, so, but they will be the same size, so some savings in design by multiple buildings are the same, again, with the facades. Now, on the West High, the diagram shows it, the long axis paralleling the Lama Boulevard. Is that going to be the case, or that just put it that way instead of being parallel.
We really haven't designed it yet. I mean, that's where it's going to go.
Yeah, but I mean,
And given the constraints of the site, I would imagine it would have,
We're losing parking.
you would sit in the auditorium and probably face west, given the orientation of the building, but that's not been completely decided
Yeah,
yet.
could not tell you that yet.
well, the thing is that if there was room, it seems to me that on that one, it would be paralleling to Victor, you would have more room for parking behind there on that access road into the music buildings.
Well, I would think that most of the parking would be across the street where it is for most school facilities.
Yeah, but
There's that little tiny parking lot
That
that's
little
up.
but if you
Which
look at that, the length of that, you could put in probably 40 or 50 more spaces if you could put it a double lane.
The architect will come up with that, Charles.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just picking location right now.
Yeah, the other thing is that, and when they say entrance, what do they mean? That the iconic entrance, I mean, because coming from Del Amo Boulevard, that building is just going to be a building. There's not going to be anything.
I don't think we've decided whether the entrance is going to be off Del Amo or.
No, what I meant is that in the design here, it said oh shoot, I didn't bring mine with me. Here it is. It says creates iconic school entry point.
Yeah,
And so.
that's why we have architects. She'll come up and explain this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about West High School.
Yes.
And in order to, off of Del Amo Boulevard, to get to the high school, it's pretty far from Del Amo. So if you put a building right there on the corner, that will show a presence of the school right off of Del Amo. That's all I was trying to point out. Instead of having to come down, and I forget what the street was called, Victor, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, is that for the 50 years that the school's been there, you've had the football field there, you had the light poles up there, so you always knew that there was a school there when you come
Okay,
down.
well, this is more design. We're just citing tonight,
Yeah.
Charles. We'll have this
Yeah.
discussion when we get to the design part.
And these 3 auditoriums, how much activity would you anticipate them having annually?
I don't think we've gotten that far until we get them built.
Well, let's go
designed.
to the question. Since we do have an auditorium at Torrance High, how often is that used during the school year? Approximately.
I don't have a clue.
What demands it is, do you mean school activities or other people renting it out?
Well, both. How many school activities and how many other activities? Roughly.
I don't know that we quantify how many school activities are there because it covers instrumental music, vocal music, dance, theater.
Graduations, things. I mean, I went there a lot when my kid was in band.
So it covers all those areas. As far as the number of times it's rented out, I have no idea what that would be.
So it's probably used at least once every week when you
Let's
average it out
hope.
for the year.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
We're spending a lot of money on this thing.
Yeah,
I hope it
that's
gets
what
used
my
more than
concern
that.
was, is that we're building these buildings and how they would
It'll
be.
get used.
Oh, it'll get used. Trust me. There's so many.
Because we got middle schools, elementary schools that will use it. This will be kind of a hub facility for
Okay, so
all the
you-
music programs, all the fine the arts programs.
So you're going the direction that each high school is going to be like it's each of a small city, because population of each of our high schools is similar to Manhattan Beach, as far as
Well, I mean,
activities.
and again, this is way off topic, and it's getting
Yeah.
late, Charles, and we're probably up to our
Yeah.
3 minutes.
I'm just
But
saying, but just-
ideally, what we want this to be is, elementary schools and the middle schools are able to use the high school facilities. Obviously, there'll be new facilities at the middle schools, like in the way of gyms and science rooms. But for the big stuff, you go to the high school, and that's the way it's always been, and it's the way when you and I went to school.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. So you have a problem with the location A?
Oh, no.
Okay, then
No, it's
we'll
just the orientation with the streets. That's
Well,
the thing.
then we'll deal with that in the design part.
Okay, that's one to bring it up. So when you're looking at it,
Okay, good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Right.
Thanks.
I actually do have some questions about
Good, shoot.
North. Sorry. So for location B, the adjacent building is how tall? That's on campus there,
That's a 2-story building.
right?
Yep.
So,
Tall one though.
Tall.
What's
It'll
the tall
be-
one?
Well, it is.
it'll
It's-
be similar to
Similar in height, so it would kind of fit in.
Yeah.
On the other side, in location A, it's also a two-story
building.
classroom building, so it would be similarly
Right.
fitting into the, but we don't have a sense of what the entire cost of putting it in A location versus B location would be.
No, I haven't been able to really review if we do relocate those portables. I haven't really reviewed what it would take in order to do that.
We also can't get a feel
excuse
for
me,
how
just-
big of an issue it is with the
Yeah, excuse
DSA
me
approval
just a
already
second.
having been done.
Yeah, see, I think the problem is not only the cost there,
Yeah.
but it's going back to the Edison folks who have a complete site plan, and now to encroach on that school by saying, but we want North High School to do this on your campus. And oh, by the way, you're going to need to move all of those things.
But you indicated that they thought this might be a possibility, Dr. Mann, didn't you? You said you had talked with them about other things coming up and potentially not being able to do the plan?
No, what we talked to them about was the science lab and where the science lab was going to go. See, we knew by the time that we had finished planning, or about finished planning at Edison, that the science labs would, in fact, be on the campus. So we talked about where are you going to put your science lab? Because remember now, elementary sites have two things. They have their music art room, and for those who haven't been done yet, now you've got a science lab. So they're actually putting two more buildings on that campus.
Okay, then my final question actually is, I believe when originally those portables were put in there, that was not Edison property, that encroached on North to begin with, when they did move those in. Phil's saying yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that probably could be true,
Yeah.
but, it's what it is now. And-
Right. So taking it back might be justice at this stage of the
Well,
game.
it could be, except,
Well, no, I didn't mean it that way, but I
Sounds
mean,
awfully
it's
terrible.
it's North
Just gonna
property.
go down there with a gun and just.
Well, it's North property.
Justice.
But now we have
You
to go
big
back
star.
to them again.
But we're
No,
a
I mean-
family.
And if we do relocate the portables, it would still have to be on North property. Right. So, and I don't even know if that's even doable yet.
Yeah.
As Paul Westberg, he reminded me to remind you that option B is also close to Saxon Hall, which is a good proximity for all the performing arts, kind of classes.
Well, one thing I like about option B, I mean, you guys did a wonderful job on the front of North, and that has its curb appeal and that has its presence. And you come up, here in Yukon, and now we'll have a presence there, so you'll get hit on
And-
both sides.
And option A is hiding behind.
It's hiding by the
parking.
parking lot there,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And the neighbors in that location were informed about this possibility of having a 45-foot-high building across the street from their homes.
They were noticed about the meeting tonight. I could not tell you that they were noticed that it was 45 feet or 40 feet, but all the neighbors through Dr. Stabler's office, we followed our normal procedure.
And as we said, the theater isn't that much taller than the two-story building that's there across the street from those homes that's existing right now. So it's not totally out of context.
Okay. Back up to us.
I can do this one.
Okay, you can do this one. Let's go.
Make a motion for location A for south, location A for west, location B for north.
Oh, no, you're not done yet.
Combining the contingent upon the environmental, completion of the environmental review process.
Okay.
Sorry.
Could you repeat that again, please, that motion? What?
It's
A,
for
B.
A, B, okay,
A for south, A for west, and B for north.
thank you.
Contingent upon the completion of the environmental review process. It's only taken us 7 or 8 times to get that, George.
That's good. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
All the,
I'm sorry, I actually would request that we do them individually, because I think I want to vote differently on one than the other. So if I vote the same for all of them, it would not be genuine.
I'll make a motion to approve south, location A, contingent upon the approval of the environmental review process. Completion of the
Right.
environmental
Second.
review process.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
I make a motion for West, selection option A for West High School, contingent upon the completion of the environmental review process.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion for option B at North High School, contingent upon the completion of the environmental review process.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Good, 4-1. Good, okay.
Thank you.
Good. We are on to item number 5, approval to adopt resolution number AS, now I'm losing my bifocals here, AS-16-14/15 of the Board of Education for the execution and delivery of a site lease, sublease, construction services agreement, and other acts relating to the construction of the Torrance High School modernization project with Balfour Beatty Construction, LLC. Do I have a motion and a second?
I so move.
I second.
All those in favor?
We don't want to talk about it?
I just took a shot here. You know.
Aye.
I saw an opening and I took it.
Aye.
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 We're done.
Okay.
Stand here all night for that?
Now there was more entertainment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we have to there at the end.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, just for that. I wanted to say no to.